Hey everyone, I know you were all expecting the first 5 chapters of The Stone Sky today, but we had a small personal issue come up. So we are excited to re-release our discussions that we had with Sara and CM Caplan of fiction fans and indie publishing fame from our season 2 of the Wheel of Time coverage. One of these conversations was actually exclusively on Patreon, so this is a special treat to release out to all of you as we gear up for season 3 of the Wheel of Time next week. We will get back to our regularly scheduled content next week, but we appreciate you all being here with us today. And now back to the show. Welcome to our pod, and by that I mean on Wednesdays Reread. I'm Hannah.
I'm Laura.
And we are usually two best friends who do a deep dive into a new book series, one book at a time. But today we're four
best friends.
We are just stacking the panel because
we're not even talking about TV. Or we're not even talking about books. We're talking about TV.
We are talking about TV. Come on.
I'm so flustered.
How dare you? I know there's 4 faces here, and then I can't, and then I only end up looking at my own anyway. So, but today we are joined on the pod by CM Caplan, Connor, and Sara of Fiction Fans fame. Welcome to the podcast, you both.
Hello. Thank you for having us.
They were nice enough to join us for a 4-episode discussion of a very intense show where you rewatch it and you're like, I forgot about this scene, but it was really important to the entire season. So
honestly, yeah, I rewatched the first 4 and was like,
it's gonna be the whole recap, and we're like, "What scene was this?" I've only seen it the one time. I don't remember.
So poor Connor. We were like, "Oh yeah, we're doing episodes 1 through 4," and they were like, "Oh, I will have all 8 episodes watched." And we all were kind of like, "Okay, no questions." And then they got on, and they're like, "We're only discussing the first 4."
The thing is, you told me that before. I just forgot.
You're ultra prepared.
Literally.
So you are ready to discuss the entire season, but we will be focusing on the plot of the first 4 episodes. But guys, just we will definitely be ruining the first 4 episodes. And it may be best to have watched the entire season because there could be spoilers ahead.
I mean, there definitely will be spoilers. So
I don't remember
if
which
you haven't
episode
seen this show,
so I could just say anything. And just be like, you know that part in the finale? Oh, that was episode 8. Okay.
But can we ask, what are your thoughts before we get into the plot on how you were feeling about season 2? If you liked it, if you've been liking the show overall, what is your journey with Wheel of Time and how you've been feeling about the TV show?
Who's starting?
You're already talking.
Okay, cool. I really like both seasons, probably because they're nothing like the books. My mom loves the books. My mom is the biggest Wheel of Time fan you've ever met. She read them when I was in high school, and she kept trying to get me to read them for the longest time. And so I read them in 2013 when I was 17. And I got through the first 3 books, and then I tried the 4th, and I had to basically go to my mom I'm sorry, I can't keep doing this. They're so long, and there are so many of them, and the last one just seemed like a really good stopping off point. And what I like about the show is I think it streamlines a lot of the biggest sort of moments from the those first 2 books, at least so far. And it's so much of it's almost its own thing that I just really like. It takes all the bits that I liked about the books and then trims 80,000 pages from them.
So much fashion got cut out because they could just put the person in the dress.
Like those 500-page prologues that we're used to. Somehow they're only 5 minutes in a show. So.
There's I remember talking about it with a couple friends I had in high school, where I was just sort of there's so many dream sequences in this thing. He's had 5 separate dream sequences with some dude with fire eyes, and they're always saying the same thing. It's the same dialogue exchange. I'm starting to think he's copying and pasting it.
Oh no, I think he wrote out every single one of those.
Oh man, in excruciating detail.
Yeah. Sara, how are you feeling about the show overall and the books and everything?
I'm really enjoying the show. I have read all of the books. I'm about to start a reread of them, actually.
You are so brave.
Well, so I do another podcast besides Fiction Fans. I do a Wheel of Time podcast specifically. that I occasionally co-host anyway, called Tarvalon Talks. And Tarvalon Talks is about to start a reread of the books. So that's why I'm about to reread them. But we're going really slow. I think the first episode is just going to cover the prologue and like the first 5 chapters.
That's a lot.
So it's only like 100 pages. It's not that much.
I feel like the prologues continue to get longer in my mind.
Well, it's the first book's prologue, so it's still when it's like a reasonable amount,
Yeah.
I'm sure. Like, it's
Yeah.
like, oh, this is actually a prologue.
Is also doing so much for the
Mhm.
whole series.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. I mean, I think when Laura and I originally started our read of the books, we had seen so many podcasts out there that were like, we're breaking it down chapter by chapter. And we were like, never in a million years could I do that. I cannot talk about this book for the rest of my life.
I mean,
It's like
I
a
have
long time.
Yeah, I have no idea how this is going to go or how far we will actually manage to get, because if we continue at this pace, I don't think we'll be done within 30 years. I mean, like, it's going to take forever.
Oh, man.
Sarah
I'll be
says that now.
105 still doing the reread podcast.
The wheel turns as the wheel will. Like, it just keeps turning and turning and turning.
Yeah. But
So
I
I was
really
trying to figure out how to get podcasts out to the rest of the people at a retirement home. Like, would you guys please listen?
I had a question for the rest of you guys. On the topic of Wheel of Time TV shows. I'm so curious if the rest of you ever watched the 2014.
The Winter Dragon.
Yes, that one. Sit up until 2 in the morning to watch that.
I didn't.
That was when it aired in my time.
I
Okay,
did
what is
watch it
this?
when it came out. It's so the production company that did it had the rights to Wheel of Time, and they were about to lose it. So they had to put out something on TV in order to keep their rights.
Yeah.
So they put something together really hastily.
They got Billy Zane as the dark one.
Yeah, Billy Zane is the dark one.
But he is the dark one. I hope they keep that consistent.
I really want a
do
Billy Zane cameo. Yeah.
Yeah,
Awesome.
like that would be a good cameo to just be like, you know who the dark one is? Billy Zane.
The official show Twitter account has made reference to Winter Dragon, so like it could happen.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
That's incredible.
Fascinating. Okay.
But
Where do we watch this at?
It's on YouTube.
Oh,
It's
good.
on
Okay.
YouTube. It's
only
so bad
20
it's good.
minutes, and it's got 17 sort of commercial breaks
And-
in it.
Yeah.
You guys like made a Patreon episode for us just now.
it's just the prologue.
Literally. It's Billy
so-
Zane and whoever's playing Luz Theron.
Yeah, and I forget who.
Called Max Ryan, who I
Yes.
do not recognize.
Yeah, Max Ryan. And he goes around shouting for Ileana a lot.
Yeah.
And that is basically
That is the prologue.
The
I mean,
whole-
that's
it's just that.
I
And
mean,
it's
that
funny,
was
but-
like the majority of the books I remember. That was all Luz ever brought to the table was he would walk into like Rand's dreams and be like, "But Ileana," and then just leave. And you're just sitting there like, okay, I got you stop by.
And we wondered why Rand was having a hard time with all of this because it's like someone randomly shouting in your brain, like, what?
No, I had not seen that one
Yeah,
yet.
they did it to keep the rights, and then it started a whole legal battle with Harriet, I think, who sued them because their whole legal defense was like, well, they never said we had to make a good show or piece of media. Like we just had to make a piece of media in this time frame, and we did. We aired it at 2 a.m. on a channel no one will watch. It still counts.
I
That's why we
unironically
have the show.
unironically love it.
It's kind of on their
so-
side. Like that's what they have to do. Like that's how you keep rights. That's like why you have like so many Superman or Spider-Man movies. Like they keep being like, oh, we're about to lose Spider-Man rights. Better put out a Spider-Man movie. It's got to be one. Like,
Oh man.
So this is
Great.
only 20 minutes though? Is this
Yeah.
like-
I'm surprised they managed to stretch the prologue 20 minutes, honestly.
Wow.
Laura, we're definitely
I
watching
definitely
this.
know what we're doing
Yeah,
next.
yeah, that's we're doing
It's
this.
so good.
Well, Laura,
I'm so glad you brought that up.
what is the broad strokes about your feelings about the TV show right now as it stands?
So I have kind of a weird relationship with Wheel of Time books. I did not enjoy books 6 through when did Brandon Sanderson come in?
11 or 10,
Okay.
10.
6 through 10, I did not enjoy
11,
very
sorry.
much.
Yeah.
And then I was really amped up to have the final 3 with Brandon Sanderson in there. But I'd say overall, I have kind of a love-hate relationship with the book series. When I watched the TV show, I was pleasantly surprised. And I have been recorded on this podcast saying that I believe the TV show is canon. And the second season has further entrenched me into the TV show as canon, because I think they're doing a lot of good things, like was previously mentioned, like taking some of the highlights of the show or highlights of the books and really like strengthening them in the show.
Yeah.
And I know you said you've been enjoying it, Sarah, but like, how are you feeling about the show? Like, do you prefer it? Or are you just kind of like, oh, this is a good adaptation? Like,
So I really enjoyed the books. Although, unlike Laura, I was less than fond of the Sanderson books. Not my favorite part of them. But I really like what they've done with the show, and how they have condensed the material in a way that still feels like they are being true to the books while removing some of the extraneous stuff, shifting things around, because you can't have Rafe Judkins has went to Amazon and said, I want to make Wheel of Time. It's going to be 8 seasons.
mm-hmm.
And you can't you can't do a 1-to-1 adaptation of a 14 book series. Epic series where all of the books are like 1,000 pages.
Yeah,
you can't do that in 64 episodes. I'm sorry, you just can't.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just not possible unless the episodes are 5 days long each.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I think that he's done a really good job at pulling the important bits from the books, deepening some of the characters, most notably like the Forsaken. The villains get a lot more depth and nuance to them. And really bringing it to life in a way that still feels true to the books, even if it's not inaccurate to the books, if that makes sense.
Also, the women can get much better written, just in general. I'm sorry.
Yes.
I'm dumping on the books too much. That was...
No, I agree. Yeah.
A lot of blue-headed idiot stuff did not necessarily make the cut.
Well, and I think that's like Laura and I, when we talked about the books a lot, was kind of talking about how it was like a very like second wave feminism male perspective of like women can be angry too. Like, that is what these books are. Did you know that women can be in power, but they're going to be in power exactly like men are in power, and they're going to have the exact same responses that men have? And there was like very little nuance about what it meant to be a woman who has power, or a woman who has like different wants and needs. And I think that this series like has women who all have different perspectives and wants and needs, but they're like going about them in different ways, and it's giving like a lot of nuance to that. And so I am loving the television series. I actually had a really hard time watching season 2, just because I knew it was kind of going to be a lot. Like, every time I went into an episode, I was like, well, gotta buckle up, because like, you're gonna sit down and you're gonna pay attention and you're gonna be focused in, because like, if you're not paying attention, you're gonna miss something. And I do think that like they have a lot of weight to this show that sometimes went in and out in the book series. Like, sometimes when I'm watching it on the show, I'm like, oh, this holds a lot more weight than it did when I read about it, just because like I feel like Robert Jordan's style is a little bit more epic and a little bit like, here, let me tell you a tale. And it's like, oh, I didn't get how traumatic this would be, and they're really showing the trauma that everyone's having, and that's really interesting. So I love season 2, can't wait to dive in. But I'm kind of, well, I enjoyed it a little bit more than Laura did the books.
For sure.
And then the TV show, I thought season 2 was a step up even from season 1, which had a little bit of a lighter feel, and then season 2 went a lot darker in a lot of ways that I did not expect. So, well, with that said, we are going to do a quick recap of what happened in the episode so that Connor can remember which happened in what episode.
There was so much.
There was so much. Well, and I was rewatching for these, like, just typing out what happened, and I was like, oh, Varen just dropped like a huge plot point, and I do not remember her doing that. Like,
no, I'm going to have many moments like that.
Well, okay. And so, as a reminder for book two, I'm pretty sure book two is the A Man Named Boars Laura
I
book.
believe it is.
Yes. So in book two, it opens with like kind of a giant party of all dark friends. And it's like a man named Boars walked into a room, and a man named Boars did this, and a man named Boars did this. And they kind of condense that into a 3-minute like teaser at the beginning of the episode where a small girl's like just out playing on top of like this giant like seal type thing. And then all of a
Wondering what
sudden
that was about.
uh and all of a sudden there are Trollocs outside, and she runs in, and there's a meeting. She runs to their table, and you hear them talking about the fact that they are all dark friends. And you see like there's an Aes Sedai at the table, there's a Child of the Light at the table, there's a Shanaran at the table. So it's like kind of showing that they're everywhere and they have like infiltrated the society.
I thought it was kind of neat because I feel like that was something like in the books that we didn't necessarily get as, or maybe I just didn't get as much of that, like who is a dark friend and who isn't type thing, because a lot of it seemed like in the books to me that it was like when the dark friends were mentioned, sometimes they were almost like cartoonishly evil. And I think that maybe me just not understanding like who was done a little bit better just in this opening scene, where there was a little more like, oh yeah, dark friends can be places we don't expect them to be and people we don't expect them to be.
It's like
I think the books, the books, it's so easy to gloss over who's a dark friend or to miss it because there's so much information.
Yeah.
And that visual that we get in the dark friend social scene in the show really is a great way of like actually showing the viewer like, yes, there's dark friends everywhere without you having to remember names or character descriptions or anything like that.
Well, and that's kind of like, this is the change to like a giant prologue in book two, where it's like this man who's like, oh, I look over and I see someone who's hooded, but they have an Aes Sedai ring, so that means Aes Sedai are definitely evil, you know. And like they have very drawn out like through his own perspective, but this was a good way to do that while keeping some of the like suspense, because you're seeing a little girl's perspective, so you don't get to see the faces at the table, you just know that those people exist. But then like a man pops down, and it's the one that we believe to be the dark one in season 1, so he is still in play, and he takes the little girl out to the Trollocs, and he's like, oh, you know, you just have to understand, like, not everything is evil, you can understand that they are just hungry, which is a very unique perspective to have with the Trollocs. Like, I like that they're doing that, where like this villain in this show is very into like, I just want to break the world, I just want us all to exist in like what this is, and I don't want us to have this like good versus evil, it just is. And so I think that that's an interesting motivation for him to have that I don't think was always seen in the books.
It's also sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I just, one of the things I liked about it is there's this sort of what is it, the bomb under the table kind of filmmaking, where it's like if you have like just a bunch of people and then a bomb goes off, there's 2 seconds of suspense, whereas if you see it under the table, there's like fucking 2 minutes of suspense. It sort of like builds up. It's like, oh yeah, they're everywhere, and so you're kind of, it keeps you guessing of like, well, how many places are there, and how many of them are there in those places?
Yeah. So in this episode, we have it broken out in different ways, but like for the most part, we have Moraine and Lan who are staying with Varen and Adelaus, and Tomas, who is Varen's warder, and Varen and Adelaus are 2 Aes Sedai. Moraine is trying to investigate things, like she's just Madam Detective this season, where she's like, where like they're like, hey, that's like the 20th person who went up to her office and just chit-chatted with her. And then like Bael Damon comes for a visit, who is a river captain.
And Lan's just like continually bringing her food, and she's incredibly rude to him. And he's like, I laid out your food and like your place setting and everything. You want to come eat something? She's like, no, and get out because I have to read this poem.
A lot of this like season, I feel like, is a discussion of like what it means to be a warder and an Aes Sedai who are supposed to be connected. And it's like, well, do you rely on the power too much for that? Or do you rely on like mutual respect and understanding? And like, is this actually based on a relationship, or is it just based on like, am I a tool for you? And there's a lot of back and forth where like Maureen just keeps like telling Lan to his face, like, I think you're a tool. And he's like, I think you're hurting.
But in Lan's defense, he's not wrong.
No,
Right?
he's
absolutely right.
And
No,
she's
no.
lashing out.
I love him so much because he just keeps like doing everything right. And then she's just an out and out, like huge bitch to him. And she's just like,
She's terrible.
get out.
Yeah,
And he's
she's
like,
terrible.
I know you're in pain. And like it kind of there's a lot of Maureen in this season where it shows
Well,
like,
and like
her
throughout
character.
these 4 episodes, these
Yeah.
first 4, Lana's constantly like asking other people, like, so like, do you
What do I
think
do?
that if I tried this, she would maybe come around? And they're like,
Oh
No.
my God.
Well, they're also like, Leia, she's like in deep pain. Like who she thinks she is for like a very long time is no longer at her disposal. So like she's
Right.
not going to be a reasonable person. But she meets with Bail-Damon, who has like a broken piece of Quendiar. And he's like, we found this and it's made with the one power and it is broken. So it is interesting. So you need to pay me a lot of money. And he's like, and beside it, there was a poem written on the Quendiar before it was broken. And I have a copy of the poem. And she's like, oh, really? And he's like, yeah, it's only like 1 mark to add on the poem. And she's like, you take the Quendiar. I'll keep the poem. Thank you. And so she is like shutting Lan out. Lan's talking to the women and discussing how like women who are stilled often die, and they're like, well, and he's like, she's just feels very selfish to me. And they're like, she's actually not selfish because she's not committing suicide, which is a very weird argument to make. Like, she's being terrible to you, but like she's not wanting to die, so like she's doing okay. And then later in the episode, like the end of the episode is kind of like her running away from Lan. I'm just going to close out their section because it's not too big, even though it is a lot of the episode. And she's attacked by 3 Fades, and Lan tries to help her. And he's like kind of being overtaken. And then all of a sudden there's like channeling happening behind her. And it's this moment of like, oh, can Maureen channel? And that it's definitely Varen. And Varen steps in with Tomas and they like take out the Fades and are able to save them.
I just say that Varen is perfectly cast. Like I
Varen,
love
Varen's
Varen.
incredible.
I love her so much. I remember like in the books, I wasn't always a huge Varen fan, and now I'm like, nope, I kind of love her. She's kind of awesome.
I'm all in on Varen.
She's just walking around being nosy and awesome.
And can I just say that Rosamund Pike as Moraine is incredible, especially in this episode. Like the way that her introduction scene in this episode kind of parallels the scene where she's in the bath with in the first season, the first
with
episode.
Lan,
yeah. And the heartbreak on her face, like you feel her pain without her saying a single word. And similarly, when we think that, or when she has that moment where she thinks maybe she's the one who's channeling at the end of the episode, and then she realizes that it's not her, the way she conveys that just through her like minute expressions is so spot on and perfect.
When I was like watching it again for the second time, I was sitting there and I was like, I too just want to sit in a bath and be depressed a lot of the time. Like,
bath scene is like really like a
it's
really
so
good
well
one
done.
though, because like you see her moving her hand through the water like she did before to warm it up, and you also just get the deep sense of loneliness that's in her at that moment, because before she was taking a bath with Lan, they had this shared connection. Now she feels completely isolated. Something has been taken from within her and she's not even able to warm up the water like she could before. And the way that she just kind of like curls up into the fetal position in the bath, it's really a beautiful portrayal of loneliness.
I was thinking during that scene where, like, if she was any more depressed, she'd be watching like Pride and Prejudice while in the bath or something like that. Like that. Was, oh man, it was like a brutal sort of opening scene to really just sort of establish where she's at. There's also a thing during the fight with the Fades where they're both sort of bleeding out, and I think Lan is just sort of like, "What are you thinking?" or something like that. What are you hiding? And then
what are you hiding?
That was it. It's just like, what? And then she falls back. And for a minute, I had a moment where it's like, did she just die to escape that question?
I feel like Maureen would want to.
But it seems in character.
Oh, gosh. I was texting a friend about like how often they're using Maureen like versus the books, like because she always was kind of a side character. And they're like, yeah, they're condensing a lot of these books and they're putting all that weight on Rosamund Pike's shoulders, and she just delivers every time.
Honestly,
So
incredible.
But we also have Nynaeve and Egwene at the White Tower. They're both struggling as novices. There is a very specific scene where you just see Egwene taking all the like leftover water and tea and dumping it into a big old bucket. And then like they're in the kitchen and Alana walks in and tries to get all the girls to weave water and earth to remove the dirt from the icky water and make it clean. And Nynaeve can't do it because she is blocked, because she can only weave when she's scared or angry, as they like to remind us. And so Alana's like, well, you have to make it try. You have to try. And Nynaeve just like chugs
nobody's
back the dirty
until
water.
They get this water.
And
drank.
Nynaeve is just like, she drinks it and she's like, you didn't say it had to be clean. And also Egwene is sitting there who this girl, she's like, I have to do it without my hands. And Alana's like, you really don't. And she's like, well, if I can't do it amazingly, then I don't want to do it at all. And everyone is like, you're making this way harder on yourself. And that is a moment where I was like, yep, I was Egwene in high school. I remember like taking all the hard classes and then like crying to my mom when I was not first in my class. And she's like, maybe if you took a blow off course, you would be doing better.
It makes sense given Egwene's specific experiences last season with the White Cloaks. Like I can see why she's like, this is not the easy way, but god damn it, he said that, you know, he cuts off the hands of everyone that he captures and then they can't channel, and that's not going to be my problem.
And she's also just someone who very specifically like has to, and she talks about this in later episodes, where she just has to watch them all try so hard to get Nynaeve to channel, because they're like, you're so powerful, you're so amazing. And she's like, I'm good too, and I'm going to prove it to you by like insisting to do it this way. And I'm not going to like let anyone tell me differently.
I think it's hard too for her. I thought they did this pretty well in the first half of the season, like the way that they showed Nynaeve and Egwene's really complicated relationship, and how Egwene does care a lot about Nynaeve, and I think she's happy for her to an extent. But it's hard to watch somebody be told, like watch somebody do something or be told that they're so good at something that you want desperately to be good at, and they don't want it that much.
Yeah.
And so I thought they did that pretty well, where they're kind of showing that it's jealousy, but like a different kind of jealousy, where it's like she just wants to see Nynaeve accept what she's able to do a little more, or be more open to it.
It's really understandable. I mean, to hear someone else be praised and yourself be ignored, when if that person wasn't there, like she would be that one.
Right.
Yeah. Yes. Like that's really, I think Egwene's feelings are really understandable. I get frustrated with her too, because I'm like, Egwene, don't be so mean. Even though she's not actually being mean, she's being human.
Right.
You know?
She's also just being younger. Like I think that's something to talk about, where like there is a weird relationship, like you were saying, Laura, where a lot of times like they are best friends in one breath, but then like Nynaeve is her caretaker in another. And when you have to walk that path together where you are both on like similar trajectories, it's going to be more frustrating to like have that type of relationship where it's like, oh, I get to see you like be blocked and hear that you would just be so amazing. And in the same breath, they're like, well, you're strong too, Egwene, but like Nynaeve.
Nynaeve is 100 times stronger.
Yeah. And it happens to her every time. And they do a really good and effective job on the show, where every time Egwene is in a scene in the first couple episodes, there's always like a sister walking by and being like, have you seen Nynaeve? And she's like, no, we're both very busy people. So I do feel for her a lot, even though I too got frustrated with both of them throughout the first 4 episodes. There is also a very TikTok famous moment. I've seen it on TikTok a bunch because I am on Wheel of Time TikTok, of Alana having a threesome with her 2 warders. And then a very comedic part of the episode where Egwene goes to ask her questions about holding the 2 weaves at once, and
that was incredible.
She confuses it for 2 partners at the same time.
She's like, you just have to like learn to open yourself up to these kind of things and
experience.
Does she confuse it, or is she being intentional?
Right, that's
ambiguous.
Focus on your own pleasure.
The way she was eating that fruit in that scene as well seemed very very suggestive, and I feel like it was like a pomegranate or something, right? And I feel like they picked that on purpose.
I also love that they're choosing like her as the character to kind of introduce us to like, oh, polyamory in this world is like no big deal. Everyone is kind of pretty accepted. Like even if you're from a small town, you may not have as much experience with it, but there's never like a horrified. It's just like, oh, I didn't realize that was happening. Okay, cool, bye.
It's not the problem. Like she's leaving because she didn't realize she was having this kind of conversation. Not you have this kind of relationship, and that's
right.
Fun sort of distinction to be making.
That's the joke of it, where she's like, I was talking about weaves, and then she was like, well, you also need to relax with that.
I love Alana in the show, and I hate that I love her because she, for book spoiler reasons that I won't go into, and I really hope that they keep her great in the show and just excise some of the bits of her plot line because she is so fantastic.
Agreed. Hard agree. I love her so much in the show. I really hope they do not ruin her. I love her. And you also find out in this episode, like her warders specifically, like one of them was in love with the other warder, and then that warder was also in love with a lot. So it was kind of like a straight line of
it's like a chain reaction.
Yeah, it was a chain reaction where Nynaeve is like, well, what made you guys want to become warders? And he was like, well, I fell in love with the warder. And he was like, well, I fell in love with an Aes Sedai. And he's like, you always make me feel like I'm the third wheel. But like you get the feeling that their relationship is very equal and on very equal terms. And I do love that expression in this series that they've like had that couple or that throuple character that like works really well together.
And also I feel like, I don't know if we've talked about it yet, but Nynaeve has been kind of like hanging out with the warders a lot and like on the edges of them like training and everything, because she's not like the other girls. She's
not like the other girls. She has an emotional block.
They're like, you guys should be cleaning, and she's like, screw that, I'm going down to watch these people fight.
I also do enjoy that throughout the season she's always wearing her wisdom belt to show like I was in a status position. Like you can't just treat me like
it's still important to her and a part of her.
Right.
Which I think is cool that they show that she's almost unwilling to like totally throw away a piece of her.
Right. Where she was like, well, that's part of our culture. It's a respected piece of my culture. That's who I am. So I'm not just going to pretend like it didn't exist, like to benefit everyone else. So we also find out during this time that Alana really can't get through to Nynaeve. So Liandrin asks for permission to talk to her, but not teach her, because we found out that Liandrin killed one of the novices that was in her care, or they died through some unforeseen circumstances. And then she goes to Nynaeve and immediately like attacks her with weaves.
She's like, you know what? I'm going to get through this block by pissing you off.
Well, and she kind of like makes fun of Nynaeve for something that Nynaeve like in the books always did, was like using her wits and using actual like sword fighting and actual resources that weren't just connected to weaving. And she's like, how dare you do that? It's beneath you. Like, do you know how quickly I could kill someone without a sword? And
you're expending a ton of energy, she explains in the next breath.
Well, we never said Liandrin wasn't a hypocrite, Laura.
Yeah. She's like, look, I don't need a sword. And then she's like, but guess what? It's a ton of energy to do this.
And also, if you are more powerful than me, it is just going to happen that way anyway. Like, and so she is able to get Nynaeve to attack her and like mimic the weave that she just saw. And she's like, you memorized it after only seeing it once. And she says that she can teach Nynaeve to be powerful when she channels and use her anger to advantage. And like Aes Sedai always think you must have control to weave, but there's different ways to weave. We also find out
weird Emperor Palpatine kind of moment.
Yeah.
You don't have to learn this from a Jedi.
I mean, the angles that Liandrin is able to get on her face are so magical that like it's so impressive. They make her face so angular. I don't know how they do that. The camera angles, man.
I really like Liandrin this season.
She's really great.
Yeah.
She is just, I love her, but also she is always chewing that scenery. Like in any episode, if you look at the background of what she's doing, she's always like,
she's got a specific kind of glare on her at all times.
She's always like looking at some person where you're like, come on, guys. Like she is so suspicious. She can't help it. She just walks away in a suspicious manner. Like
she's just got big like royal vizier energy, you know? Just kind of constantly looks like she deserves to be skulking about in the shadows.
So
And you know what?
I
She
mean,
does.
I think it's so much better than Leandrin in the books, because the only thing about Leandrin in the books that I remember is basically that she's blonde and pouty mouthed.
she was blonde, pouty mouth, and she would like walk it. Like a lot of the books was someone walking into a room and screaming at people. Like she would.
It was
walk
kind of
into
what I was saying before. Like it was a cartoonishly evil type character, like almost like Matilda, Mrs. Trunchbull, or Miss Trunchbull, where it like comes in just like, you guys are terrible.
Yeah,
And
she would like
then
walk
just
in on
abuses
Nynaeve
them
and
for no
Egwene.
reason.
She would walk
So-
in on Nynaeve, Egwene, and Elaine, and she would be like, "Elaine, you will be the daughter of Andor. Once have more respect," and then just walk out of the room, and you're like, "What? What
Yeah.
doing?"
So I do like that they've like deepened this character and given her a little more.
I mean,
Well-
she feels like a person.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she does. Like just a very devious person who's chewing scenery. We also find out that Perrin is out with the Shannarans looking for the Horn of Valir. He's traveling with Loyal and Uno, and they're being assisted by a sniffer who we find out is Elias, who we called Elias when we were doing recaps because we thought the name sounded nicer, but
It's fine. I always get the pronunciation wrong.
that's okay.
I mean, I
called
pronounce it
Elias on
Elias
the first
too.
try.
Oh, good.
So-
That makes me feel better because Sarah is definitely better at pronouncing things.
I remember that I think I did call him Elias, and Laura was like, "I've been saying Elias because I thought it sounded nicer," and I was like, "I do too. Let's
Well,
call
'cause
him
the
that."
Y,
Like,
it throws me off.
Yeah,
Elias.
it's the why.
I read it that way the first time and then never altered, and then read and then I watched the show and I was like, I was right the whole time.
Damn you, Connor.
But
I think it's a better pronunciation.
I just have a cousin
I
named
feel like if there were
Elias.
two L's, I can see
So
it. Oh yeah, I can see that also posing some complications.
yeah, where I'm
I
just
don't
like,
know anyone named Elias.
yeah, I have a cousin named Elias. I'm like, he's nothing like a sniffer with golden eyes. Come on.
Right. Yeah.
But he's like helping them track. He's on foot, which Uno complains about a lot. And they find the girl's family, who was from the start of the episode. She had gotten away somehow. But they do know that one of them was a dark friend, it seems, and Padon Fane like double-crossed them. And we also get a little bit of Perrin having a vision of like, that's kind of what happened. And so he knows. And so the man who was the girl's father is a Shannaren. And even though he was a dark friend, they do give him a proper burial. And Perrin has a conversation with the leader of the company, kind of like, how can you do this? How can you give him this respect? And he's like, well, all men deserve respect. And Perrin talks about how he has a hard time with the fact that like Padon Fine was so kind to him and his wife, and he has so much anger within him that he doesn't think he could hold back if he ever had to meet him face to face. And there's a huge rage inside him. He also is writing letters to Egwene and Nynaeve, and he sends it to them. And Egwene has to remind Nynaeve that it's Beltane, and she forgot that it was that day because Nynaeve was going through some stuff. But they read Perrin's letter together, and he talks about how like he's learned a lot from the company, including if you all have your shields together, you're stronger together. And he feels like they're so weak because they're all in their separate corners of the world. And he says that he wants to bring Loyal back to Tarvalon next year for Beltane. And they can all be together and celebrate, and hopefully Matt will make his way back to them. Egwene cries for Rand, and how much she misses him, which I'm like, yeah, he was like, it's been 6 months. Like that tracks.
I don't know why I've just like, it always escapes me that like, oh yeah, they cared about each other a lot. I just like forget about those two as a thing.
It's because in the books, it doesn't
never matters.
You don't get the sense that they actually, even though I'm a total Rand Egwene shipper, like they should have ended up together. I'm sorry, that would have been a much better book.
I agree, just because of the way I know it ends up, and I hated that.
Oh yeah, it
So,
would have been a much
I
better
agree with
book,
you.
but
yeah.
I do think that the show does a much better. Well, again, in the book, they're like 14 and they're like,
Yeah.
one day we will get married. And I'm
Yeah.
not ready for you to do that. So why is your hair braided? But like in the book, it has a lot more, or in the movie or the TV show has a lot more weight to it of like, these two have been together for a long time. They, the second she was like, it's been 6 months. I'm like, oh yeah, that's a deep amount of grief. How are you not like still on the floor? 'Cause,
I mean,
Right.
it feels like they had a real relationship,
Mhm.
Yeah.
a deep relationship that
Yeah.
they don't have in the books because they are aged up in the show.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so Nynaeve says like she will be with her always, and kind of like at the beginning the warders were like, find out your reason you're here, and Nynaeve's answer is Egwene, and I'm like, that's not
Nynaeve's
a
like,
good reason.
the only
Yeah,
reason
yeah.
I'm here is because I am treating this person who's basically the same age as me like my child.
Because you are my daughter. That is why I am here.
I'm
But
here because I'm the mom friend.
Yes, exactly.
I don't trust you guys to get home after drinking, so I'm here. So they do light a lantern for like Matt, Parrot, and Rand, and they like pray for Rand's soul. And then it cuts over to Leandrin, who's reading the same letter to Matt, who is locked up with her. And she leaves Matt out of the letter purposely. And this is like a cartoon villain moment where she's like,
Yes.
no mention of Matt Cawthon. And I was like, I hope Matt is sitting there like, obviously they mentioned me.
It's funny though, because he's basically just like, why are you reading this to me?
Yeah. He doesn't like react with like shock or like I've been abandoned by my friends. He's just confused, like, why are you reading this? What the fuck, lady?
I also like, I always love when there's a change in actors, because for people who don't know, the actors of Matt changed. They have to make sure they say his name in like the first 20 seconds of introducing him, so they can be like, just so you know, this is Matt. So she's like, poor Matt Cawthon, not mentioned in the letter at all. It's like, okay, ma'am, sure, thank you for this note. But he is like, why are you reading this? Why am I locked up? I haven't touched the dagger in 6 months. And she's like, you know why you're locked up? And he's like, I really don't. But she says like none of his friends care about him anymore because he abandoned them all. And then we find out she leaves, and we find out he's trying to like cut through the wall to the other side to escape. And then as they're lighting a lantern for Rand, we see Rand walking around and lighting his own lantern and pushing it up.
And
into
he's
the
got a
sky.
haircut.
And he's got a hair.
A very huge haircut.
And the actor said, I do not want to dye my hair red anymore. I have shaved it. Just pour some red on it. Okay. So that was the end of episode 1. And it leads us into episode 2, which opens with Rand. I also thought that this was a good parallel. Like if we don't get a ton of book 3, because Rand's out of a lot of book 3. And I feel like they effectively kind of converged some of the stuff that happens in book 3 with book 2 with that stuff.
Yeah.
So I thought having him out of the first episode until the end was a very effective way of having some of the like flavors of book 3 into the book 2. So that was good. And I never mind not seeing Rand.
Rand is boring at times, so
I did like this season some of the Rand stuff where I was like, oh, that's a really effective way of making me care more about him, because you're right. When he's off the screen, I kind of am like, all right, whatever.
Just wait till you get to my episode 4 notes, Hannah.
And Rand's just there. So Rand's having nightmares about killing all of his friends. And the man, and you know, the dark one that he killed last season. But then he wakes up and we find out he's with a woman, Celine. Dun, dun, dun.
He's got a new girlfriend.
He's got a new girlfriend.
Can I just mention her hair? What
Her
is
hair?
going on with her hair?
Oh my god.
Were you aware when I think some of the first stills of her came out on Twitter, between like the Wheel of Time fandom on Twitter, there was a lot of debate about whether her hair was a hair or a hood. So you were either team hair or you were team hood.
Oh, I did not know this.
Yeah. It was the whole thing.
I mean,
I see how that's a debate though, because it's like plastic. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like huge, and they tried to make it look greasy, but I don't know.
Well, the thing is the one thing that Amazon, like, I remember season 1, I really hated Rosamund Pike's wigs. Like every wig she was wearing, I was like, this is not threaded correctly. It does not look right. You can tell she was wearing a wig. And like, I feel like sometimes Amazon Pride, they're like, oh, we spend so much money on this, this, and this. The Trollocs looking like actual beings that exist, never heard of it. Celine's hair, just slap a wig on. It's fine. They just, so I feel like
hair is too much.
she definitely had a Lifetime production style wig where like they didn't even make a part for it. Like that's the whole thing. Like if you're going to have a wig, you have to like create a part, and they didn't even try. They just swooped.
Yeah, it's all over the place.
It's just swooped. So there are certain scenes where you can tell she's probably wearing her real hair, but then they like plastered it back with enough grease to like not bother. It's a choice.
I didn't notice any of that.
I didn't think it was that bad.
I thought it was great. I actually really liked her hair.
You really liked her hair?
Yeah. I thought it was nice.
okay.
I mean, literally, like, I don't notice any of that shit. The most observant thing I said about her hair was like, oh, it seems really shiny.
I
That was
liked.
the most insight I had into that. I mean,
did.
okay, as a disclaimer, I should mention every time she was on screen, I was DMing Sarah a lot throughout all of this. Anytime she was on screen, I had to physically restrain myself from like simping in Sarah's DMs. Like, oh my god, I love her.
So
She
I
would
Serena as
count
an
me and I would
actress
say
is
thank
awesome.
you, really.
I think
Honest.
her hair looks amazing every time it's slicked back. I think it's a choice. I think it like makes her look like very like high dominatrix when you get her in some like nice leather.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
like,
the-
I'm here
that's
for
why I
it.
liked her hair.
Her long hair, I'm innocent hair is just a very
Yeah.
specific wig where I'm like, I just wish they would have spent a little bit more money on a proper wig. That's all I wanted.
That makes sense.
But I also
I think
love
that
talking about
actress
wigs.
though, like we could go on and on
Amazing.
about the casting.
Oh my God.
Celine was perfectly cast.
Yeah,
Amazing.
the casting for the whole show, I think, has been on point. Like
Oh,
every single
good.
person, they haven't necessarily always matched up with my mental image of the character
Yeah.
to start with, but they just kill all of their roles.
Celine
I
looks
Exactly.
nothing like I was expecting her to, but just, I mean, I've already demonstrated
she's
how I feel
amazing.
about that.
Well, and also like I want to see actual interviews with the character who plays Nynaeve because I was like, are you just that good of an actress where like you're so
Seriously.
intense
Mhm.
that like, or it's just like this is your personality? I need to know because it's so good. But we find out that Rand is in Kyrene. He's working at like an asylum / hospital. And he's hearing whispers saying that like, Rand, you are mine. Rand, although you're mine. He talks to a master swordsman who has PTSD from the IO War. He's kind of grumbling at Rand, like, I can't believe you're one among us. Like, this is ridiculous. And this is the part where I was like, oh, I really like how they're showing Rand because he has a lot of like humanity when he's helping this man, and he treats him
Yeah.
with like
Mhm. Yeah.
dignity. And he's like, we have this conversation every day. You'll figure it out. We're okay. And then they like go, he's like, well, let's go for a walk. And the guy talks about like how good he was as a master swordsman. And Rand's like, I'll sneak my sword in. You can teach me some more moves. And the guy like goes to do moves. And then there's another caretaker there who's bullying the man. And later in the episode, surprise, Rand like hunts him down and beats him up with a fervor I have not seen from Rand yet.
Yeah.
Interesting how you paired that whole
Like
thing.
he was
Rand is so compassionate, and then he beats someone up with a
I-
fervor
an
on
inch of his life.
Well, very
I-
compassionately, he beats them up.
Yeah, like he knows that guy is evil.
I think
He was a
think
dark friend.
I think that specifically for the scene where he's beating up his fellow attendant, like part of that is he loses control over his use of
Yes.
the power. Like, so it's not that he's intentionally going that far,
Right.
but it's another method of showing the viewer that he's not really in control of what's going on with him.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And again, we also have in this episode, Moraine and Lan still struggling. She's like, we're going to the White Tower. Load my horse up. Have Thomas do it. You're not healed yet.
She's like, I don't want my saddle to slip off.
Yeah.
Yeah, still pretty weak. Like,
the
oh
way-
my
oh my
gosh.
The way she delivers lines is like such a bitch move where she was like, make sure it's Tomas. I don't want my saddle to slip. And like walks off the scene. And I was like, wow, you had like such sharp dialogue.
Oh my gosh, Lan
So-
needs a raise.
So, no. Oh, Varen and Tomas are like traveling with them. We find out that Varen is writing a tome about the history of the breaking of the world. She's kind of talking to Marina. She's like, hey, 3 Fades attacked you. Like, what's up, girl? Like, you were traveling with 3 boys last year. One of them, the dragon. Like, she gets it immediately. And then Moraine kind of threatens her life. And she's like, good. If you hadn't threatened my life, I wouldn't have known if I could trust you with the dragon. Like, and she kind of talks to Moraine about like things she's seen in all of her studies and how like a lot of it discusses Tommen Head and the dragon announcing himself there. And then there's a lot of like Tomas and Varen sharing how they met. And they're like, Lan and Moraine, how did you two meet? And we find out that he thought Moraine was a mercenary who was there to attack him.
Yes, I love that scene.
And take his virginity pretty much. And she thought that he was a dark friend. And he kind of talks about how like, oh, when I met her, she came up to me, she grabbed her like sword or something, and I threw her in a lake. And they're like, you threw Maureen Aes Sedai in a lake? And he was like, well, shouldn't remove a man from his sword. And there's like a very nice connection. But later she kind of talks about how she saw him and all of his like hurt and everything and how used he to like Trollocs he was. And she kind of knew that she wanted a companion who's like strong enough to do that. Also in this episode, she does admit to she has the huge revelation that they didn't defeat the Dark One in season 1. They fought Ishamael. I forget how they say it. They have a specific way.
Ishamael.
Ishamael. Thank you.
I don't think that she has the revelation now. I think she's realized it.
Oh, she realized it, but
she knew that before.
Yeah,
past tense, I think.
She tells Lan, so this is the first time the viewer is understanding that they released Ishamael, and he is like the Dark One's lieutenant, as he is called. And she admits that Rand is alive, kind of to hurt Lan more if he's like, you said he was gone, and she was like, you assumed. Like and then she kind of releases him from his oath to her. She's like, well, you are not useful to me. You couldn't stop me. Fades from attacking me. You haven't done your duty. And then she like cuts him to the quick where he's like, please tell me the truth about like how you feel about us. I always thought we were equals. And she was like, we were never equals, and like leaves the scene. And it is very dramatic.
Spends the whole season thinking about that.
I know. It's all he can think about.
Relatable. If someone said that to me that I trusted, I would probably spend the whole season of television pondering.
I also feel bad because like later in the season, someone is like, of course you guys aren't equal. And it's isn't that the worst feeling when you have like a strong feeling about something and someone's like, yeah, of course. Like we all knew that.
Literally, you're the asshole here. I'm sorry. Like fucking what? Like,
yeah. Oh God. And so we still have Perrin looking for the horn with Uno. Uno's frustrated. Elias is not riding a horse. They cross a river and enter a town that was massacred. Perrin is again able to see like a vision where he like tries to talk to the people and he doesn't realize that they're actually dead. And then when he gets out of the vision, like the entire room is covered in flies and he's horrified.
Oh, how do you guys feel about how they've done Perrin's like sniffing visions in the show? Because obviously it's quite different from the books where he just smells everything.
I mean, it's a necessary change. Like, I think it would be very weird to just have Perrin walk in a room and be like, death happened here. Like, I think that's a very strange thing. But I also don't love Amazon's like graphics, like the way they have everything like very shiny and golden. Like, I just don't think that that's quite as effective. And I actually kind of prefer the way like last season, the weaves were a lot less constructed. And like, I kind of hinted that I thought it would be more effective, like as the people learn more about the weaves, as they get better and better, like you get to see more and understand more about what the weaves look like and everything. And I do think they kind of did that this season. So I almost wish we had more of that for Perrin, like him confusing his visions for reality and us being confused in the moment instead of like, it looks like fireflies are walking around.
Right.
I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts?
I can see how making it look more realistic might also cause for some audience confusion of like, wait, I just saw this happen and now it hasn't happened. So I think they need to do something to demonstrate that it's different. I don't remember a whole lot about how it happened in the books. I was pretty sure he wasn't getting like full-on visions. But I was just like, I mean, I'm just gonna roll with this. I could see it working a bit more if it was like the kind of effects that you got with like the Pensieve in the Harry Potter movies, where he's just kind of floating through a scene that's clearly happening without him. I could see that working, but like the way it is was not so much that it like affected the way I watched it at all.
I think for me, it took me a minute to figure out what was going on because I honestly was a little bit confused with it. And then once I figured it out, I was like, okay, I guess this is probably the best way to explain what's happening to him. And especially when he doesn't for sure know what's going on. I don't know of a better way to show it.
Yeah, I think I wasn't a huge fan. I think you're right, Hannah, in that they couldn't keep it like the books because that just does not translate well.
Right.
But like you, Laura, was a little confused at first, but also don't know how they would do it better. I think it was, I think the colors were just too like bold and off and shiny.
His scenes were the most disjointed this season. Like his scenes almost felt a little bit like Game of Thronesy early seasons to me in a weird way, or like too shiny. I don't know. I remember feeling the most disjointed with him. A little bit of events, like with random, like it always felt too violent or not violent enough. And so I feel like Perrin was our favorite in earlier books, but in these, I'm always kind of waiting to get done with his scenes. That sounds bad, but I'm always like,
I mean, there's not as much character building happening in his scenes, so I can kind of get it because they're not doing a lot. Like they did a really good job, I think, in season 1 of building empathy for him and everything, and getting you to care about him. Even when they changed, even the stuff they changed about his backstory, sort of gave him more to do. Whereas with this, he was just kind of there for a lot of it. And didn't necessarily have to overcome anything or explore anything really about himself, which kind of made it less intriguing than all the White Tower stuff, to pull a random example, or Moraine and all these people who have to go through these whole sort of who am I kind of answer life things, and he didn't really have to deal with as much of that.
Well, and I feel like they don't know what to do with Perrin's character, because in season 1, remember, they had that weird moment of like he just lost his wife, he's grieving his wife, like his dead wife, and all of a sudden they had a thing of like, well, he probably would have been with Egwene if he wanted, if like Rand hadn't been there.
I still think that is the audience naive misinterpreting their friendship. Like I will die on this hill. I do not think that Perrin in the show has the hots for Egwene at all.
And that's what I hope for. But I also think like, I think sometimes they're throwing things at the wall with him because they don't really know what to do with him. So like
that's book canon.
Yeah.
Know what to do with him.
Right.
Either.
And so that, like, a lot of times what's happening to Perrin, I always see it for like, oh, they wanted a way to introduce the Sanchen and have a scene where we see how evil they are. Let's just have Perrin there. And it's like, well, that's effective storytelling for the Sanchen portion, but it's not exactly effective storytelling for Perrin. Like, it doesn't do.
I think too, it's difficult because he's like so far the only character that has like the most morals, and like I don't know. It seems like they're trying to make him into that character, that he's gonna be the one that is the most heartbroken by them being apart from one another, and he's still grieving his wife, and he can't believe that these things are happening to him because he's a good person and we're all good people. And so it's difficult to try and place him in some of these situations when you're like, wait, isn't he supposed to be having more of an internal battle? But I don't know.
Well, they keep telling us he's having an internal battle without really showing it, because it's like they keep being like, there's a rage inside of me and I might be evil, but also my power is gold and shiny. And I think that's like, so when you're putting him with like light colors and golden colors, like we intrinsically associate that with good. So like it's just silly to have it be like, I'm full of rage. I'm so shiny. Like,
I mean,
it doesn't work.
Perrin has always been such an internal character that I think he was always going to be the hardest to translate on the screen. And also, I just don't sympathize with a lot of his internal struggle, because who doesn't want to talk to wolves?
Right.
and like, so I'm sorry. When he's complaining about it, I'm like, but that's super cool, dude. Why are you mad about this?
Exactly. You're trying to talk to me. My God.
I do. We can't really get into too much, but like I do enjoy the final episode with his character where they kind of showed like how it can overtake him, and that's the struggle. But they didn't really show that before then. It's it's
at
like
this point,
him learning he can talk to wolves, and it's like, okay, that's just a fun little jaunt.
Right.
I think
they need to give him more goals or something like that. Like he needs to be going after something or learning something about himself in a way. Even if they had something like him failing to control himself like previously, or like some shit like that that he's like struggling with. There need to be more clearer stakes for him, I think.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right, Connor, when you say that he doesn't really have much of a journey that his character goes on in this season. He's just kind of there, and doesn't do a lot of changing. And that just makes him a boring character to watch, honestly.
And and that's the thing is, I was more interested in like Loyal in those things where I was like, oh, I want to see like Loyal's internal conflict, and then like he gets paired with other characters where I was like, oh, I'm interested in those characters. I don't really care that Perrin's there.
Yeah.
But he does have a vision, and he's like kind of talking to them. He realizes there's flies. Elias walks in and he's like, it's hard to tell visions from reality. And I'm like, not really. One of them's sparkly.
From our perspective, no.
It's just pretty easy. But they do find out that someone like strapped up and tortured a Fade. And then they're like, you know what we're going to do? We're going to go stay in a nearby inn. And I was like, what a weird shift in decision making. Like they found out this entire town was massacred. And they're like, we'll go to that inn down the road. And I was like, okay, go off. And then in the same episode, they are attacked by the Sanshan and Damane. And they attack them and take them all captive. And we do find out at the end of the episode that I will not be able to say his name.
Ishamael.
Just call him Ishi. That is show canon now.
Perfect. Ishi is with them. So
well, is this the part where Ishi has Perrin in like a little wagon?
No. That's in episode 3.
Okay.
That's episode 3.
Okay.
So that just kind of happens at the end of the episode. I've kind of clumped everyone together except for like big scenes. So Nynaeve is being taught by Leandrin now. She's taking her to different locations of Ashas. And she's like, this is the yellow location. This is where we heal people. And then she just does like a rundown of all the Ashas where she's like, when you're with Greys, you'll learn politics. When you're with Blues, you'll learn blah, 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 blah. And like, there's a little bit of dialogue dumping. She also teaches Nynaeve that women Aes Sedai live for hundreds of years. And so she's pushing for Nynaeve to be able to like actually use her powers because she thinks it's almost silly that the Yellows try to heal individuals when you could try to heal the system and make sure the system isn't broken. So we learn a little bit more about Leandrin's side of things. And she says that she's pushing for Nynaeve to go through the arches because once you go through the arches, you become an accepted, and then she could be taught by Leandrin because Leandrin isn't able to touch novices anymore. In this episode, we also find out that the man who was teased in season 1 that she keeps in North Harbor is actually Leandrin's son, who is much older, and he is in extreme amounts of pain and he's dying. Nynaeve follows her and tries to tell her that like she's using the wrong herb mixtures, and she's actually making him like be quiet about his pain, but he's still feeling it. And she tells her to like sub certain herbs, and then Leandrin screams at her to leave the room. We also learn that Shiriam, who's the master of novices, is meeting with Alana about Nynaeve going through the arches. And Alana's like, dude, she is not ready yet. Please don't do this. And they kind of all talk about how something is coming. Like there are more powerful people walking around, including Egwene, Nynaeve, and the daughter Heir. And that like they need to have all the tools they can have, and Nynaeve is one of those tools. And so they're like, well, you can vote on it later, but then they're like, unless you're taking a trip. And there's just like a pile of like suitcases in the corner, which is very funny. Matt is still a prisoner. He's being told that he's held for observation. This was also a funny moment because like there wasn't a ton of Matt in this season, but they had to find new ways to like showcase the actors like same energy. And there was a moment in this episode where Leandrin is like locking him up and he's making hand movements as things get locked up where he's like, click, and I was like, oh, that's a good way to show like Matt being humorful. Like, he's like, I've been here for 6 months. I've memorized the sounds.
That was actually one of my favorite scenes with him. Matt,
Right.
for all that he doesn't show up a lot in the season, when he is there, he's really good. And I liked Barney Harris, who was the previous Matt. Like, he was okay. But Donald Flynn is way more how I imagined Matt to be.
Yeah.
Yes.
Same.
I will say I can't wait for next season where he gets to be with the main cast again, because the only time it felt a little disjarring was anytime he had to be reintroduced to one of the characters and like they had to say hello to each other. And I was like, this doesn't feel right. But then I was like, well, that's not his fault. Like, he was thrown into a scene where he had to like meet up with these people again. Yeah. And that's got to be a difficult scene to like do a quick flip to. But I did like his
I think
character.
that Barney in the first season was more of like the tortured soul type, And that wasn't as much of a vibe that I got from Matt in the books, and I'm
I think it
getting
worked
more
for
of
Dagger
the
Matt, but like
I think
Yeah.
Barney
when
was
he's not
definitely
possessed by the
Dagger
devil.
Matt,
yeah,
and
good point.
Donald is definitely post Dagger Matt, and Dagger Matt was the reason why I stopped reading the series originally.
Oh.
Because
I remember
didn't
this.
even know that.
Yeah, like because I had started reading it like a decade ago, and I got 2.5 books in and was like, no, Matt sucks. I'm not reading anymore. And so I like Donald as Matt and the energy that he brings a lot more.
Yeah.
That's good.
Me
yeah.
too.
Dagger Matt and Ishii canon.
Yeah.
He does break through the other side of the cell, and it's another cell. And on the other side is Min's back. They make friends. I really like her character. She's a lot more like rough and tumble, which the book tells you she is, but it never shines through. But
Yeah.
this series like does such a good job of her being like, nope, I drink. I'm a bartender. I do not care. I will hang out with you. And like they share wine. And she kind of tells him about her power. And I loved the scene because she's like, well, don't you want me to read your like future? Everyone else does. And he's like, I have no interest in learning about my future.
Right.
I want to experience my future. That is not me. Please don't. But she does see him killing Rand with a knife.
I think it's interesting too how they portray her with some of this. Like a lot of people think about Min and they're like, oh, that would be awesome to know what's going to happen in the future. And she's like, no, this is terrible to have
that
this.
was a really
And
good subversion.
Yeah. And I feel like they handle it a lot better in the show than I thought they were going to. And I don't know what I expected, honestly, but I think they're doing a good job of showing how this is more complicated than just being like, oh, we see the future and so we know it's going to happen.
In the books, I feel like Min is a plot device.
Yeah.
She's not a character.
Yeah.
She
a plot witch.
exists. Yeah, she exists solely to further the plot.
Yeah.
And in the show, she feels like a whole person with all of the complexities that entails and the issues that her gift, quote unquote gift, brings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also
Absolutely.
loved the pairing of those two. Like, I don't think they would
Yes.
have. Like,
have
They were
very kind
fun.
of similar energies. They bounce off each other really well.
they're so good, and I just love her little mullet. I really like it, and I vibed with her in this.
I remember in the books, any scene that I read where Min showed up was like I could almost see Robert Jordan on the other side of those pages being like, I really need to throw some foreshadowing in, but I can't find the space to do it. And then she's all right, let's find a way to put Min in this scene.
Yeah.
She just
Here
drove
we
me
go.
nuts again with like the second wave feminism of like, she's not like the other girls, she wears pants. And it's just like, okay, cool. We also have Egwene meeting someone new, Elaine Trakan, the daughter heir of Andor, in one of the most nauseating scenes. I hated Elaine in this.
Oh, I loved it so much.
This opening.
I thought it was so perfect.
It
was
perfectly portrays this
wonderful.
character.
No, it perfectly portrays this character. It was the perfect scene setting. But every time I watch it, I'm like, oh my God, the scene happens in every book, in every TV show. Just her being like, I didn't think they'd put me with the other novices. I'm Elaine Tracand. You're one of my
You haven't had a
subjects."
chance to put your room
Oh,
together.
God,
It looks
yeah.
terrible in
It's
here.
some garbage too, right?
It looks like absolute shit. Like-
And then she's like, oh, you've been here a while. What a nice blanket. You made it yourself?
Yes, see, like, I know that this scene is like it's been done before. It's every sort of royal in a commoner place kind of scene, but the way they sell it is it's like it knows exactly what you're looking for in that kind of scene, and it gives you that in spades. The blanket thing is like such a fun little extra moment of like, I should really backpedal here. Blanket, fuck, it's too late. Like, it's just so good.
I do love that Madeline Madden, her composure in the scene is like pure acting excellence, where she gives this girl nothing. Like in other series, like some people will be like, oh my gosh, oh, that's why you're acting this way. And Madeline just sits there and looks at her like, are you fucking kidding me? Like I'm not going to answer this. I'm just going to let you dig the hole deeper. Right. I'm not in this conversation with you. Like,
I love her intro scene just because like I think I described her to Sarah in her introductory scene as like just kind of doe-eyed and stupid. And it's just like there's a promise at the end where there's a little glint of like she's gonna unlearn this eventually, but for now this is where she's settling in.
Well, and you do find out like she's not like a regular daughter heir. She's cool a daughter heir. She makes wine. So she like makes booze with her. I also like anytime there's an introduction scene with her, I'm like, I feel like she could just go about making friends differently because she's like, oh, Egwene, why don't you take me through the tower and give me a tour? And then like halfway through, Egwene is like, you didn't need this.
But she's never had any friends before.
Right.
Yeah. So it makes sense that she's really socially awkward.
Right. I know.
I love it.
And it does show like she takes the punishment for someone else because like someone else let her guards into the novice quarters to decorate her room. And Shiriam is like, dude, you don't get to do that. Like, absolutely not. And they like strip her room for her. And she's like, well, I'll take the punishment for whoever let that in because it's not their fault. Like, it was a favor to me. I can admit that I'm wrong. So she takes the punishment willingly. And also at the end of the episode, she's kind of like talking with Egwene about what it's like to be part of the tower. And Egwene kind of has a moment. This made me really sad for Egwene in so many ways. Like, Elaine was not wrong, but Egwene has this vulnerable moment where she's like, it's really difficult to like be trying my hardest. And anything anyone wants from me is from Nynaeve. All they want is her. And like, I just want to succeed here. And I just want to show that I have something to bring to the table. And Elaine is like, jealousy doesn't look good on you. I was like, it made sense because Elaine in the next breath is like, look, I'm the daughter heir of Andor. I know what it's like to have that kind of power and it's not fun. And like, you can't let that get to you. But also during that time, Nynaeve overhears Egwene and it hurts her feelings. So
no.
This whole scene I thought was really well done because you see all the different complexities of their whole situation. And I really appreciated it. And I thought, honestly, this was a good moment for Elaine because she was able to see both sides of it a little more than, and this was what we liked about Elaine in the books, that she was kind of a mediator of sorts between Egwene and Nynaeve, where it's like, okay, we're getting a little more of a neutral front here.
I definitely didn't think anyone was wrong in that scene. It's just like particularly bad when you're trying to be vulnerable and someone is like, I think you're wrong.
I mean, I don't know that she said she was wrong necessarily. She just kind of like, you need to be a little more understanding here.
But Egwene or Elaine, sorry, wow, too many names. Nynaeve kind of walks away from that situation. We also find out that Rand, when he beat up the caretaker, was really trying to get to the caretaker's charge, who is none other than Lugane. Dun, dun, dun. Episode 3, guys. We're halfway through. So this is the episode where Nynaeve goes through the arches. This episode did kill me actually a little bit. I was a little dead.
Hard.
There's a piece of me left in that episode.
I remember when
you didn't make it out of the ter'angreal.
I didn't make it out of the ter'angreal, guys.
Yeah,
I'm still there.
Yes, exactly.
I chose another option. I remember watching this by myself, and when I had people walking around me doing stuff in our house when the episode was going, and the scene happens where we all find out that like the ter'angreal is happening, and I went, she was so happy. And that was like my moment.
What did you say, Hannah? No, she was so happy.
Yeah, I said no, she was so happy, and I said that out loud in my living room. So that was fun.
Yeah,
I remember when she first like loses herself in however the fuck you pronounce it, I forget. When she first loses it and everything, I remember there's the moment where she meets with Lan, and I'm like, she's not out. There's no way. There's no way he left Moraine behind, number one. And then there's the whole "the way will come but once." And I remember trying no, don't leave. You can't leave this for a man. Come on, you're better than this.
It was too simple.
Oh god,
they definitely got me though. Like,
they got me. To be clear, I was yelling that in panic and frustration because I was sad about what was happening, not because I thought it was a cheap moment.
But I'm saying that like I definitely, when we first see her come through the arches at that scene and like go through her packing and leaving and then meeting up with Lan, I was like, but this is not what happens in the books. This is a complete departure. What is happening here? Where are they going with this? And then we find out that she's actually still,
Yeah.
you know, in
Right.
the test. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
I like
had
the fake out. That did get me at
Yeah.
first.
I really thought that they were just doing a complete like delineation from the show, and I was
Yeah.
actually really excited about it. Like I had a moment of like, oh, this is going to be so interesting for Nynaeve. We get to see a completely different like arc for her, and then it happened, and I was like, oh god, I wasn't prepared for that. I'm so
It
upset.
sucker punch
Uh-huh.
you.
Yeah, and I'm not even the biggest Nynaeve fan. I was just really excited for her. So, but she does go through the arches this episode. The first one, she has a child. I thought that this was really well done. I always like when they do this when like it's the adult version of them, but they look in the water and they're like, "Oh, I'm actually young to everyone else around me." I'm like, "Okay, I can buy into that. That's fine." But her father's there. He's helping her. She was holding bad herbs, as she does, and he tells her to be careful because crimson thorn roots are poisonous. They are attacked and they have to run. We find out her mom's kind of a ferocious fighter, like they both are, like they're both fighting against these attacks, and they put her in a cellar. And the arch comes, and she has to run back through and leave her parents to die.
Real quick.
Yeah.
This is a bit of a non sequitur, but I was watching the show. My fiance was in the room, but like doing her own thing and like was like watching something else on her laptop. Looks up during this scene and just for the first time since I put the show on, like says like, "Why are there so many fights in the woods on this show?" There's always every time I look up, they're always fighting in the woods.
That's very fair.
They don't have to have as many casts for that.
Right.
It looks disguised.
Well, and so, and they heal her for her sin. She asks if like that was real or not. And they're like, we don't really know. It's people's fears. People's fears are their own. Keep them to yourself.
They kind of like shut up and get back in there.
I will. Oh, yeah.
I gotta say, I am desperately wondering where is the health and safety
Literally.
in Tarvalon, because we see that there are no railings on the tower.
Yes.
They're using these terangrial that they don't really understand. They're sending these women in, and they sometimes die, and they're like, I guess that's okay. You know, it sucks, and we don't really want it, but we're still going to do this. Like, where is their health and safety committee?
We were talking about the lack of handrails, and I was really hung up on that. And then you pointed out, just like, well, I mean, you're really putting the cart before the horse here. There's a lot more sort of safety violations happening here.
It is something where it's like in a bad storm, you guys are just blown right off there, aren't you?
Yeah.
I feel like even on a more basic level, though, like they know that people come out of this situation like emotionally damaged, and they're just like, get back in there right now. Shut it.
Yeah.
Like we're not
That's
answering
fine, I
any
guess.
questions.
Then the whole sequence start with like a bunch of people being like, "You're not ready to do this, but here you go, have fun."
But we decided you're going to anyway. I also like this is a very specific character feeling of my own. But anytime she goes into the past one, and Nynaeve is like, I was harmed by watching that happen. I'm like, I mean, that was probably not real. Like, you don't like you were a younger girl. I think you're fine. Like I'm always like, you went in, you knew it probably wasn't real. Why are you sitting there being like, I relived part of my childhood and it was traumatic. I think it was real. I'm like, I don't think it was. Like, I always have that reaction, and it's never reasonable. Like, I was like, I think you're fine. Like, you knew it wasn't real. It's okay. The other ones, I did feel awful for her, but the first one, I didn't really care when she came back traumatized. So yeah. She goes through the second one and she comes to the Two Rivers, which is overrun with the sickness. She finds out that Matt's mom, who we know was an alcoholic in season 1, is acting as the wisdom, and she's poisoning those who can't get better. Nynaeve tries to stop them or to reach out to the White Tower, but she finds out that like they did ask for help and no one came to assist them. And then Nynaeve is like, I can heal him, or she wants to heal Rand's father, but she can't. And then Rand's father asks her to stay with him, and she can't because the way back will come but once, and the arches turn back on and just run through. She goes through the third one, and this is the one that we've all already kind of ruined. She goes through and she kind of, there's like a beautiful scene where she's like falling in a red dress and she hears different things said to her. And then she stepped out and she's covered in blood. And they're like, it's not her own blood, but she is holding Lan's bloody hairpiece. And she's kind of horrified. She says she will not become an accepted. She doesn't want the ring. And they're like, this is the final chance. Like, you can't come back. And she's like, well, I don't want to. So she's decided to go back to the Two Rivers to determine what happened. She says goodbye to a queen. who's like, I need you here. And she's like, you don't need me anymore. And then
You've
they have
graduated.
Listen, you are my daughter, but you are going off to college, and mommy does have to go home at some point in time. So then
care package.
so then she's leaving, and Lan comes up to her and says, like, Alana said she was going through the arches, so he came for her. And then he hugs her, saying that he's there for her. And then in the background, there is the arch, and you hear something say, the way back comes but once. So you find out that none of this was true, and she's still in the arches. And Lan asks her what she said, and she says, nothing. I thought I heard something, but I didn't. And she kind of chooses to stay with him. And then on the outside, they wait for her to return, but she doesn't. And then they blame Leandrin, and they're like, we said she wasn't ready, even though we agreed to send her through. How dare you?
Which I didn't get that. Like, she cannot be solely blamed for that. I get it.
Yeah,
That she
like,
probably
this was
got
a
ulterior
rogue
motives,
decision.
but not just her.
I mean, but it's easier to blame Leandrin than to blame themselves
True.
for going along
Yeah,
with
I
it.
guess.
That's true. She makes an excellent scapegoat.
I
Also,
kind of
can I-
feel like Shiriam kind of own up here a little bit.
Also, can I tell you that Lanny in this series drives me crazy in the television series? Anytime she's on the screen, I'm like, you seem so mean. Like, you seem so mean.
Which one?
She is the like blue, she's the Amerlin seat right hand woman. She's always like in the scenes. She's she has a very severe face, and she's always in like deep blue. And she was in that scene. And she's always just standing there like judging people. And I'm like, why are you so harsh? And at one point, like someone says, like, later on in the series, someone is like, does the Amelin seat know this? And she's like, well, the Amelin seat is gone, and I speak for her, so she knows it. And I was like, wow, that is a very severe answer. Like, you are bringing a lot of severe energy to this role that I do not remember from the books. Like, so anyway, Perrin is before the Sunchen. They are taking girls away. Like, there's a woman walking by who is wearing a collar and a mouthpiece pointing to girls, and they're ripping them away. It's very difficult. Uno wants to like fight for these women, but like they don't really know what's going on. They're all surrounded. There's a huge proclamation before this woman sitting on a giant throne. And they're told that they're on stolen land, and they must bow before the Sunchen people. And they ask Uno to do it first, but he refuses. And they say, if you will not bow willingly, we will make you bow. And then they kill Uno, which I was not expecting.
Brutally. It's terrifying.
I don't think anyone was expecting that.
Yeah. Like, and they're kind of like, those who will not bow willingly will be made to bow. And Ishi is also there standing with the Sunchen woman. So that's going on. And this is where they put Perrin in a little cart, and Ishi comes to talk to him.
And that's where Perrin like growls back at him.
Yeah. And he's just sitting there like, where are you? Like,
can I interject real quick before we move on to Ishi and Perrin? Because I don't think that we've talked about how they made Masema hot. And I think it's really rude. Of the show, I mean, not of our lack of discussion about it.
Who did they make hot?
So Masema is the prophet. He shows up in later books. Hot. Yeah, and he's among the Shinarans, he's the one who like doesn't wear shirt sleeves and shows off his biceps all the time, and he's like a good fighter.
His name...
yes, I know who he is now.
Yes. Okay, yeah. So this actor's name is perfect because his name is Greg Chillin, which I just like. What is your name? I am Greg Chillin. And he is incredibly hot. Like, he is distractingly gorgeous. So good for them for doing that. But
But I think it's really rude of the show to like make me care in any way or find attractive in any way.
Oh, Hannah, you're talking about Ingtar.
Oh, I'm talking about Ingtar. Oops.
No.
Okay.
You're talking about Ingtar.
I'm looking up this person. I was like, this does not match the description you just gave me at all.
I mean, I do think that the guy who plays Ingtar is pretty cute too, but
he's great. Don't get me wrong.
No, you're talking about Masema, right?
Yeah, he's played by Arnas Fedorovicius.
Yes.
I'm probably horribly mispronouncing his name.
Oops, I was saying the wrong guy. Oh, I do remember him.
Oh, yes, this dude.
Yes, he is also hot.
Yeah.
Different kind of hot.
I'm looking respectfully.
Different kind of hot, but I just think it's incredibly rude for them to make Masema hot
Yeah.
Like that's an
very
affront.
distracting, really.
I
It's
mean,
supposed to be a very
very
intense
nice arms.
those
Thank you.
biceps.
Anyway, I just wanted to mention that. We can.
I think it needed to
we
be
can move
mentioned.
on now. Yeah.
No, it should be mentioned. That's good of you to bring that to. I mean, a lot of
You
these
have to
people are hot
re-listen.
in the shows, but but yeah. So Perrin kind of has talked to Ishi, and Ishi is like,
he's growling at him like, "What do you want from me?"
and then Ishi
He's
is like, "Why are you growling? You know who I am."
And she's like, "Are you growling like a wolf?"
And he does call him a monster, and he says like, the more monster you become, the more useful you are to
Become
me.
mine.
And then all of a sudden the wolves come and save Perrin, and Ishi leaves. Rand wants Logain to teach him how to channel. And Logain is kind of like, yeah, I know you can channel. I saw you. I can see how a man weaves. I can see it in their body. And like, you could definitely do it. And I saw how powerful you would be and how much you would break the world. And he insists on getting a fine wine in order to teach Rand. So Rand talks to
He didn't
Celine.
ask for enough.
He didn't ask for
I
enough.
agree.
He could have set the bar much
Actually.
higher.
But also, he didn't really help him, guys.
I know, but still. And then it leads to a weird quest for Rand and Celine.
Side quest, yeah.
It is
Yeah.
a very random
I didn't
jaunt.
catch that, so I'm glad you said something. I was like, why are they suddenly at a party? What's happening? I feel like
Yeah.
I missed 20 steps.
You missed one. It was Logain saying, "Bring me
Yeah.
a bottle of wine." But Rand talks to Celine about like the horn and how everyone's going off for Chloe, but no one will ever find it. And then he tells her he needs this fine bottle of wine, and she's like, "I can help you." And so she takes him to a party.
And she's like, "Here, wear my ex-boyfriend's clothes because that really turns me on."
Okay, but every time she talks to him, it's like, "Hey, I'm really hung up on my ex-boyfriend, but I like sleeping with you. Is that okay?" And Rand's like, I miss my ex-girlfriend too. So
At
it's
least
fine."
they're honest about it, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
they have an open dialogue.
Yeah.
The vibe that I get though is like, she's like, "Here's the thing, I need to talk about my ex that I really am still in love with." And he's like, "I have exes too." And she's like, "Shut it. I'm still talking about my ex."
We're talking about me right now.
Uh,
Oh, I feel like that was much better than in the book version where he's just sheepishly looking but not looking at her legs and being like,
Yes.
"Oh, what do I do as women? I don't know. Oh God, girls are so
Oh my
confusing."
God.
Matt and Perrin would know how
That
to
is
talk
her
to her.
Right.
yeah. Oh, Matt and Perrin are so much
Forgot
better
about
with
that.
women than I am. I do enjoy that they just let Rand fuck in this show. Like they're just like,
Right.
it's fine. He's fine. He's just having sex with
Honestly.
Celine. It's not that big of a deal, guys. But we were talking about that because I was like, all I remember from book 2 is she has a moment where she's talking to Rand and he's like, "Oh my God, her dress is getting shorter." And I was like, how did you not connect the dots faster, Rand? Like that's incredibly suspect. Like,
Right.
but she invites him to this like party with all these nobles who are kind of being wasteful while other people are starving in the streets. And he meets this woman called Anver. And she tells him like everyone participates in the game of houses and like someone gives him an invitation. And she's like, "People will be talking for weeks about whether you RSVP yes or no." And then he just tosses it in the fire, which is something that happened in the original book. So I did.
It is book canon.
Yeah, I did like that they kept that in there and how
Yeah.
fast they did it. Like it didn't, because in the book it goes on for a couple chapters where people keep sending him letters and he just keeps burning them.
Right.
But in this one, they're like, it just has to happen once, and then
Yeah.
you get like
It makes the point and gets out of the way.
Mhm.
right. And she's like, "Well, everyone will be talking about you now." And then Celine walks over and she's like, "I don't believe we've been introduced." And Celine's like, "I don't believe we have." And then she just pulls Rand out of the room because they stole the wine. So he delivers it to Logain. And again, Logain isn't the most helpful for teaching him how to channel, even though he did deliver upon the bare minimum of providing him booze. And he's like,
After everything he's been through, he's earned the right to be a bit of a dick.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
He's had a rough time.
He also like is just whispering about how Logain is definitely loose there, and Rand's like, "No, you're not." And he's
That's
like,
why I'm confused, like why they. I mean, I get why they're asking Logain to do this, but at the same time, it's like he doesn't seem to have the greatest understanding himself of his power, which
Right.
seems misguided to be like,
Well,
"Hey, please teach him."
Well, it's one of those things.
but he knows how to use the one
Mhm.
power pretty well. Like we have
he's
seen that. It's just he's also a little mad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like he's used it long enough that he's gone a little mad, and so they have no other option but to use him to
Which
be
is
like,
concerning.
yeah. I mean, it
Yeah.
is a concern, but it's one of those things where it's a flawed metric of like, well, none of us can
Yeah.
teach you, so it has to be him. Um, and so Rand's kind of like, you're mad, you can't teach me anything, I have to get out. So, Logan didn't really have to do anything except tell him he was loose Theron and he got a bottle of wine out of it. So but Rand goes home that night and he's like, I want to be alone, Celine. I don't want to have sex tonight. And she's like, usually when people are in a bad mood, they want to be alone and it's a mistake. So I will stay here and we will have sex. and
But you'll keep my ex's clothes on.
Yes. And
Oh
then
my
he sets fire to her house in his sleep.
I
And
didn't realize that was a
Unintentionally.
dream at first.
But the bit with Celine was actually just a dream though, because and you can tell
Was it?
because you
Yeah.
can tell because in the scene with Logain, and to be fair, I did not notice this the first time.
I missed this twice.
Sarah pointed
yeah.
this out to
But
me, and I
in the-
that was
in the scene with Logain, he is wearing his blue like work coat, so he
Oh.
has changed his outfit.
yeah.
And when we see
back
him
and he's wearing the thing.
with
And then
Celine,
he's back in the
he's
red.
back in the fancy
Fire
red. Yeah.
is a metaphor for
Oh.
coming, basically.
Oh,
I totally
interesting.
missed it.
I missed it too. Oh,
He
good.
had a wet dream so hard that he burned a house down.
Is this like
Oh.
Celine messing with his dreams though?
It could be.
It's
I mean,
Probably.
yeah.
Okay.
She seems
So-
like the kind
good
of person
call.
who would do that,
Yeah, that's really-
regardless of if she had magic or not.
yeah. We also have Leandrin has a moment where she walks. Well, like Egwene finds out that Nynaeve is gone and she refuses to think she could be dead. And Shiriam is like, look, I have to level with you. No one ever comes out of those arches like after this point. So she's gone. But then also Leandrin like walks in to Matt and she's like, I'm in a bad mood. One of the sisters died. And he's like, I don't really care about this conversation. And she's like, it's Nynaeve. And he's like, why didn't you lead with that?
Oh, man.
But she tells him that she's letting him go and he can go to Egwene if he wants to, but she kind of calls that he's a little bit of a coward. So he goes and he sees Egwene like mourning in the garden and he leaves instead. And then he breaks Min out of jail and he's like, let's go out adventuring together. Let's leave this place and never look back.
He's like, hey, the
Um,
door's open. Let's
Yeah.
visit it.
Does Leandrin actually tell him that it's Nynaeve, or does she just say that it was?
I think she at least says that Egwene needs you right now or something.
Yeah, I thought
Mhm.
that she
Yeah.
said that, but I don't think that she actually tells him that.
Okay, that it's Nynaeve.
that
That's
it's
my bad.
Nynaeve. Yeah.
I was rushing by the time I got here, so I assumed. So that's on me. But Egwene goes to threaten Leandrin, and this is an interesting scene because Egwene is like, "This is your fault. You put her through the arches before she was ready." And Leandrin like goes to leave, and Egwene's like, "I'm not done talking to you," and like channels fire around her. And there's a very interesting discussion with Leandrin where she was like, you were supposed to be the smart one. You were supposed to be the one who knew her place. And you're supposed to, like, you need to learn that you may not be the most powerful, but you have to figure out a way to work in this world to do that. And she gets her up to the cliff where Sarah pointed out there's no hand railings, there's no safety. She could just push her off a cliff right now. And she's like, you need to do what you need to do to survive. And Egwene tells her, you do not underestimate me, and walks out.
Honestly, in those heels, she could have just tripped and just fallen, and then we wouldn't have the whole subplot.
There are moments like where I see people just walking along a cliff ledge with like no hand railings. I'm just like, you could just fall off. Like, if you're not careful, that's just
Literally.
you're taking your life into your own hands right now. Like,
Right.
yeah. So her just walking around up to an edge. I hate when people do that because I'm like, that's so easy to just fall over. Come on.
One bout of vertigo and it's all done.
Right. So I feel like they need a moment of just like plot dropping where they're like, well, of course we have weaves protecting the castle from anyone who would fall off. Like,
yeah.
why wouldn't
What are
we
we,
do that?
idiots?
Yeah.
Of course we've taken protective measures.
We would never do that. Come on, we're smart women. So Egwene goes down to the arches to wait for Nynaeve because she's like, she'll figure out a way, and Elaine stays with her. And then we kind of move back to Nynaeve, who is happy with Lan and the two rivers, like parents coming over for dinner. and I think like they kind of hear news from Matt, who's like gallivanting around the world, and Egwene over in the White Tower. She has a daughter, and they're like having dinner, and then all of a sudden Trollocs attack, and they kill Perrin, and then they kill Lan, and then she is able to channel in the arch, which is like unheard of. And the arch suddenly pops back up, even though the way comes but once. And she picks up her little girl and she goes to walk through the arches with her. And when she comes out, she is standing alone. And Egwene is there to comfort her with Elaine. This was heartbreaking because, like, in Nynaeve's reality, she has now lived this entire life, and to like lose your daughter at that point, like that was very horrifying to me, where I was much more moved by this than like a lot of the other arches that I had seen before that didn't feel as real.
Yeah.
Or like in the original book, I think when she goes through the arches, she just has the children already. And she's like, oh, yes, of course, we've always had this life. But like in the reality of what she went through,
actually had to live it.
She actually had to live it. So that was like, that destroyed me. And I feel like no one talks about that after this.
They do a little bit in the next episode because they say something about like, or they're kind of just wanting Nynaeve to just pick up and move on. And she says something like, for you, it was like 5 minutes. For me, I was in there for years. Like this was a long time.
It was like a for the man who has everything kind of plot where it's like, you have to give up your entire idyllic life in order to to do the thing you know is right. But also you've been living this whole fucking life and now it's just going to come crashing down. It's like fucking terrifying.
Yep. So that brings us to episode 4, which is a very big shift because it's like halfway through the season. So we're getting some plot happening. So the start of this is Ishi, who is speaking in Old Tongue. And you hear him say Lanfear. And I was like, ooh, I know what's happening. And he brings back Lanfear through blood. This is our big Celine Lanfear reveal for people who hadn't read the books and don't know that they're the same person.
I was honestly expecting that the reveal was going to take a lot longer.
I kind of thought that too, that they were going to wait until like the last episode and it was going to be like, what?
Yeah, I thought it was going to be like episode 7 or something, not midway through. It's funny because I was talking to someone right before I had like seen the reveal, and I was like, wow, this reveal is going to be so like impactful for people who haven't read the books. Like I can't wait to see what they think of it. And then the reveal happens and I was like, oh, I didn't think it was coming this episode.
That was super fast. I also loved the way they did the reveal. I thought it was like a really interesting way to do it, and they didn't leave people holding too long, because I think sometimes like that's such a thing we expect for them to be like, we'll wait until the end so those who haven't read the book, it's like this shocking revelation. But I do like that they're like, no, this is a condensed telling. We're just going to let that happen. And then it's like moving the plot forward. So we also have Moraine showing up in her family's home, and her younger sister, who we figure out is Anver from the previous episode. And Moraine kind of walks in like, I'm back. And the sister's like, it's been decades since you've been home. Like, how you're just like walking in, you didn't see our dad die. You didn't see it. Like, what the actual fuck? And
she's like, look, I'm much older. Look at me now. You look the same. You've gone through like apparently no amount of time, and you're extremely rude.
You're extremely rude. Moraine has the energy of everything we've heard about Aes Sedai in the books, where they're like, oh, they think they're above it all. It's like, yeah, that's kind of Moraine.
Yeah.
So Rand burnt down Celine's house, and now he's like, I need to stay away. I need to keep you protected. Their voices are all so distinct. Like he talks in such a breathy way, and then like Perrin is just growling.
I love your impressions that you've been doing throughout this whole week.
Oh. That's like Laura's favorite thing. She says when I talk like Egwene, I always do a little lilt.
No, it's Elaine.
Elaine, yeah. Oh, sorry, Elaine. She always says a little lilt. I talk a lot like the actress does, honestly, in my opinion. So Celine's like, I'm willing to take that risk with you. I'm willing to like run off with you. We can go to where my family has a cabin. Laura's the one who did the episode notes for me, because I ran out of time to do episode 4, and so this is purely from Laura, read by Hannah. Rand's an idiot who still can't see the red flags with this woman. Celine's here. Celine's hair looks bad.
Okay, I did disagree on the hair, but yes, Rand is an idiot.
Listen. Sometimes that's what you gotta do.
I will say,
sometimes this is Rand made the correct decision. I would do the same thing in his place without regrets.
I will say that, like, yes, it's a red flag for this woman to be like, I'm totally on board, let's leave. But also, like, I don't know, it would seem reasonable if a woman's like, hey, I'm kind of still hung up on my ex, but like, you seem fine, let's just keep doing this. And it's like, yeah, that's not a red flag. And then later you're like, oh, it was a red flag.
It was a red
like
flag.
It was a red flag. Okay,
Yeah.
that's on me. Like Nynaeve is still consumed by what happened in the Arches, and Egwene is still a little jealous, but she's trying to be kind to Nynaeve. She's really trying.
I love
but
the
she's not
sudden
always.
tone shift in these notes. This is incredible.
I did this really quickly.
Yeah, I gave her like, well, I gave you 3 hours.
I know, but I had to do some stuff. So.
Okay, that's fair. Lan is traveling with Alana and her 2 warders. Lan and Alana talk about Moiraine's happiness and like kind of just what it's like to be a warder and an Aes Sedai. I did think that this was like a really effective overall arch of the story of like what it means to live for someone and be connected to them. I think that this is the episode. Is this the episode where we also find out that like one of Alana's warders, she masks the connection to him at all times?
He left at a period of time and then came back.
He did, but he also says that like because warders and Aes Sedai can
They
connect
spend a lot of
together.
time masking the connection.
Yeah. So they spend a lot of time like with that down, and they're usually not supposed to, because warders are supposed to always be able to sense their Aes Sedai to keep them protected. And he's like, it works for us. I didn't enjoy that feeling, and so that's what we do, and that's how we make it work. And that kind of is like telling him how he and Moiraine could maybe make it work if Moiraine wanted to.
Yeah.
Moiraine goes to Logain and threatens him and tries to get him to like teach Rand about channeling, since Logain is the most powerful male channeler that is known. Elaine and Egwene are bonding. Elaine and Egwene, it rhymes, are bonding through the cleaning and everything they're doing. And Egwene realizes that Nynaeve has changed and that their relationship is now looking more and more different. I also like this because like it is such a specific like 2 sorority girls where they're like, we're gonna bond because we're cleaning together and we're spending so much time together, and isn't this fun? We're gonna drink and we're gonna be great. And it's like, well, good for Egwene, she could use a win, but also it's like a specific vibe. Like again, these are Laura's. Nynaeve wants to continue to be not like the other girls and hang with the warders. The warders all want to be her warder. This is a moment where everyone's like, you came through the arches, you channeled inside the arches. Do you
I know you haven't decided on who your warder is, but
like, please don't pick Red, please.
I felt so bad for that poor young man because he is so sweet, and she just completely like rejects him because she doesn't want to be an Aes Sedai and is hung up on Lan. And I was like, oh honey, you have no chance with her.
I'm so proud of him for shooting his shot, really.
He did. I mean, he gave it his best attempt.
And that's all you can ask.
Again, the White Tower is kind of like college. There's a bunch of hazing going on. There's a bunch of women who are in control of girls' lives that shouldn't be. Like, it's a lot.
And also in this scene, Hannah, you mentioned it before, but Leandrin is just like hanging in the background, like looming back there, like staring, like, how dare you say not to be a red Aja?
She's just sitting there with a little scenery chewing right on it.
Oh, gosh.
And she's trying to be sneaky with Nynaeve and like take her under her wing. And Nynaeve is like, look, I kind of respect you. I don't know why. It's maybe because you're treating me like a human being. Who knows? But like, I'm not going to join the Red. I don't think men who can channel are blights on society. No. Elias opens up a little to Perrin and helps him understand that he's like a wolf brother and he can speak to the wolves. And again, like Sarah said, Perrin's like, what if I don't want to talk to wolves? And Sarah's sitting there being like, who wouldn't, Perrin?
Yeah.
Come on.
Right.
Excuse you, Perrin. I will take that talent if you don't want it.
Apparently it's involved with eating raw meat though also, which grosses me out.
That was a little less, I'm a little less interested in that, but honestly, like, if that's the price I have to pay, you know,
you win some, you lose some.
Elias looked like he was enjoying his raw meat,
Right. I imagine it
it
comes with a shift in your mind where suddenly you enjoy it. You're not just like,
yeah,
ew, raw meat. It's
and
like,
He's like
it's
chewing
not
on a whole heart. It's
and it's not like making him sick or anything. So like, yeah, I would pay that price.
It's a
put a
very
little bit of
specific.
seasoning on there, you'll be fine.
It's a specific turn they took in the show to be like, well, he just likes fresh meat, and it's like, well, I don't know if I needed that as as a character builder, but I guess
Yeah.
Like,
well, is it in the Great Hunt that we learn about the other wolf brother that like became trapped in basically like a wolf like state?
mhm.
So maybe that's kind of a call towards that because if I'm remembering right, like that person is basically caged and just like only given raw meat and acts like a wolf all the time.
Well, and the show is sort of hinting towards they're going to do that storyline with Perrin about like, can he maintain his own humanity or is he going to become a wolf?
Mhm.
But we also have Perrin bonding with one of the wolves who is Hopper. And
Hopper.
Laura
So
and
cute.
Laura and I
I
were
would die for
texting.
Hopper.
Laura and I were texting about, I think, musical artists at that time, and then Hopper popped up, and I go, oh, Hopper's here, and she goes, who? And she has musical artist Hopper.
I'm like, I don't know who that is.
And I was like, I should not be multitasking while I do this. So, and then Lan continues to receive marriage counseling from Alana Sporters. Perrin searches for a fight, y'all.
Perrin continues to search for Fire.
That's I used to do plot by plot summaries for those who have not listened to the podcast. And there was one book where one of the chapters was Perrin continues to search for Fail. And that was like an entire chapter. So anytime we do a little bit of like why is that happening? We say Perrin continues to search for Fail. Moraine looks for Rand in the foregate. She says, yo, anyone seen a redhead? They're pretty noticeable in these parts. And the dude tells her he went up to the mountains with his lover with the bad hair.
I couldn't let it go with the hair. I apologize, you guys.
It's not Becky with the good hair. It's the lover with the bad hair. Celine is like, I want to tell you about my ex-boyfriend. And Rand is like, nah, I'm good. But FYI, I'm equally experienced. And Celine's like, shut up and listen to me talk about my ex. This was the real deal. And then they kiss because Rand can still not see those red flags. It's because he cut off his red hair, Laura. So he can no longer see the red flags. Matt and Min are out drinking and they're having fun. They are a fun duo. But something I forgot to mention in the last episode, we do find out that Leandrin specifically put Min next to Matt to kind of sell him out. And she's supposed to like keep tabs on him and take him somewhere specific. So it is sad that they are now a fun duo that that is going to have trauma and betrayal. Leandrin continues to try to bond with Nynaeve. Nynaeve is like, I was there for years and you can't just expect me to act normal. That was a horrible experience. I lost my daughter. And Leandrin is a bee and tricks Nynaeve into seeking out a noble quest to save Perrin and Loyal because she talks about how they were taken by the Sun Chen. I like that you typed out bee, Laura, instead of just saying Leandrin is a bitch. You said Leandrin is a bee.
That's how I would have said it.
Lan meditates and is good at it. He had never been good at it before. Gets more relationship advice. Poor... I do feel bad for Nynaeve, who was like going through all this trauma of like, I lost my husband. I was deeply in love with him. Now we have to like start back at square one. And Lan is like, but my relationship with Moraine. That is the most important thing. Moraine's...
I feel like that would be so, and I haven't thought about it from this angle before, but I feel like it would be so weird for Nynaeve next time she sees Lan because she has these years of very specific memories of him, of having sex with him, of having a kid with him, and he doesn't have this at all.
No,
it's weird. And like a lot of shows in the 90s did stuff like this because I was a huge fan of witch shows in the 90s where a lot of times they would be like, there would be a line of like, the memory will fade to the point it won't feel real anymore. But they haven't done that for Nynaeve yet. No. I was like, could someone please do that for her? Because she needs it. Like,
she's been through some time.
Like, how does she not have more PTSD and more like horror this season from like, I lived for years in a circumstance that got ripped out of me and I lost everything. And now I'm just supposed to go back to normal. Like, that's not reasonable.
Right.
Poor girl.
Maybe they'll address that in future seasons.
I hope so. Maureen's sister is all bent out of shape because she wants to be buddies with Maureen, and Maureen is being a chill guest.
She wasn't being a chill guest.
Oh, she isn't being a chill guest. I'm so sorry. I said she was being a chill guest. She wasn't being a chill guest. Maureen is just so mean in this season.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it.
Understandably,
Understandably, but like her point,
Yeah,
it kind of shows like why people have such a bad expectation for the Aes Sedai though, because like her sister's trying to make a deep connection, and you understand why Maureen can't do that and cannot be there for her. But like every time the sister is like, do you want to talk about like our dad dying and you not coming? And Maureen is like, I have work to do. And it's just like, oh, that would be awful to experience.
She's just like, I have more important things to talk about than this. And it's like, oh, well, that was our father. Okay.
Yeah.
And then like you were always like at one point we do find out that like you were his favorite, and she's like, please stop speaking and get out. It's just like she gives nothing to this woman.
Yeah.
Egwene and Elaine are BFFs as they were in the books. And Elaine is like, but the thing is, privilege is so difficult. Everyone treats me special.
That was like one of the situations where I was just like, this is totally bringing me back to Elaine in the books, why I did not enjoy her, because she makes comments like that where it's like, here's the thing. I know we've got it hard now, but I had it much harder when I was a princess and people were waiting on me hand and foot.
I love cleaning chamber pots because I'm just that chill. Like Nynaeve kind of storms in and she's like, I have to leave. I have to go save Perrin and Loyal. And there's like a moment that I do feel, again, Nynaeve has been through a horrible trauma, so she gets all the excuses in the world, but she's like, Egwene, I know you must stay here, but they're my friends and they're my family and they're so important to me. I must leave. And Egwene is like, how dare you?
But I mean, like, to be fair, one of the last, okay, not the, because some time has passed, it's true, but like Nynaeve has this huge hurt because she heard Elaine and Egwene talking about how Egwene was like super jealous. And we've seen in previous episodes, like all of these times where Nynaeve tries to go to Egwene's room and she's not there. Right. And so she like has been trying to reach out and not succeeding. So I can kind of understand beyond just the trauma that she must still be feeling from her accepted test. Like I can kind of understand why she doesn't think that Egwene is going to want to go with her.
That is very fair. I think it's always hard, but like, again, they have such a weird relationship where like Nynaeve wants to be her mother, but also a supported friend. And it's like you two have a weird dynamic and you need to have a conversation. Like, I heard you saying mean things about me. You hurt my feelings. And it's just like, I'm sorry. I was frustrated. I said it in anger. Like, that's one where I'm like, I feel like we could be healed with a conversation. Like,
they do just need to talk. Yes.
Yeah. I kind of took that whole thing as more of like a situation where Nynaeve is like, you can tell she wants her to come. But again, like Sarah said, she's still hurt. So the way that she presents it, it's like, yeah, that's not the nicest way to say that, but you definitely can tell that she wants Egwene with her.
Yeah, I think this is kind of like this happens in future episodes where we're getting more into Nynaeve's like worst quality, which is like, I feel sad and vulnerable, so my answer is lashing out at people. And it's like, okay, but have you thought about being sad and vulnerable with them? And she's like, never in a million years. I would rather lash out.
It's a lot like Maureen, honestly.
Yeah. Did she die to not answer a question? Like, Nynaeve, did you go on a bad side quest just to not have a conversation? Like, and so they all decide to go save Perrin and Loyal, including Elaine. Nynaeve is like, why would you come? And Elaine's like, because we are friends. Like, Leandrin, like, they go meet up with Leandrin. She sees all three of them and she's like, well, you're going to make things difficult to Elaine. And then she just whooshes them and they pass out. So she has captured them now and she's going to decide to take them to the Sunshine. During this episode, Min is having visions of Ishi. And he's like, bring me Matt and I'll remove your curse. Then Min asks
Why?
the wrong question.
Why would anyone believe him when he constantly introduces himself as the father of lies?
Honestly,
Why
And-
does no one go, I
right.
don't believe what you're saying. You are the father of lies.
That's why I put in here, like, he says to Min, like, bring me Matt and I'll remove your curse. And she's like, where's Carrie Ann? And it's like, that's the wrong question to ask. That
Right.
why would you ask that one? Like,
I
ask
need like
another
a
question.
detailed
What do you need with this
explanation of like
person?
how you remove this curse. Like fucking,
Yeah.
can you get a contract signed in blood at some point? Like just really make sure your lawyer's present. Like fucking do something. Don't just take his word for it.
Min is like, I'm just desperate enough to get rid of this guy, so I'm going to take Matt, no questions asked, to Kyrian because she
Yeah.
wants her to take Matt there. Rand and Celine have a little lover spat and decide not to sleep outside. And during this time, doesn't a fate attack, and he channels and he kills it. And Celine has a moment where she's like, you can channel, no. And he's like, I promise I'm not insane. I'm not insane. And so Alana and her warders also read the poem that reveals that the Quendiar that was broken from the seal was part of Lanfear's seal, and they decide to keep Lanfear's existence from Lan. And then Rand and Celine are having a spicy sex scene, and she ties him up, and he's like, no questions. I enjoy being tied up. I have, like, safe word, never heard of it. And she starts channeling, and he's like, what's going on? And she's like, you're not the only one with secrets. And then all of a sudden she is stabbed in the neck by Moray.
She stabbed like right through the chest.
Oh, by the chest. No, you're right. It was through the chest.
It's like right through the chest, and then Moraine like pulls it out and brings it around and slits her throat.
Yeah. Oh,
right.
that's it.
Oh, you're right.
Yes,
yes.
You're right. That's how she does it. You just watched this. I had not finished
I just
it yet.
watched it.
So Rand almost tries to kill Moraine, and Moraine is like, you need to be smarter. That's a dark friend. We need to get out of here now. She will wake up. And they flee and then Lanfear blinks, showing us that she is not dead. And that is halfway through the season, guys. We made it.
Honestly, Rand made the right decision. I'm Team Rand on this one.
Rand made the right decision by being with Celine?
Yeah. Correct. Yes. So if that's how you go, that's how you go. You just gotta roll those dice sometimes.
Like the relationship in whole. You're like,
correct. Yes. God forbid women do anything.
In the context of things, Rand did love her. Like in that episode, he does say, like, I love you, Celine. Right. So he is in love with her. He does have real feelings for her. And she is excited about it, and just reminding him that she also loved her ex-boyfriend.
He doesn't see the red flags until they're coated in blood.
I told Hannah before we started recording that there were like many moments where I was like, he looks a little too young for me to be okay with this relationship. So I had to like Google like how old is this actor, because I don't know, but
at least
their relationship.
At least he's not 14.
Right.
And she's creeping on a 14-year-old.
Yeah.
Because like in the books, he's still 14 at this point, right? Or
yeah.
15? I mean,
I
he's
think
still
he's
really
15 or 16. Yeah.
He's still really young in the books. And Celine in the books is definitely creeping on him. So if I have to choose between book relationship and show relationship, like I'll show relationship.
I agree. I'm still uncomfortable.
I will say, at least in the book, like it's like she's much more villainous, I think.
Yeah.
So like her creeping on him, at least she's an antagonist. It's not like it's presented as a good thing.
I mean, in the books, the only thing about Celine we get really is crazy ex-girlfriend.
True.
Yeah.
Like that's the only thing.
That's her only defining feature.
Yeah.
She's the most beautiful woman in the world.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they got that part right.
I do weirdly prefer like their book relationship also, or not their book, sorry, their TV show relationship. No, I prefer the TV show relationship because, like, I don't know, it seems like they actually converse with one another, and they seem okay
a bunch of times and everything,
and they seem to like actively like consent to being in this type of relationship with one another, where they're both like, hey, we probably can't give everything to each other, but like let's continue on with this, at least through these first 4 episodes, where it's like, okay, like the show takes their relationship to this point less seriously than the books do. Like the books kind of just tell you to take their relationship seriously. And in the book, it's like, or in the TV show, that it's like, well, they're having a connection, they're having a good time, they have moments of like fun and moments of seriousness, so it works.
I think something that I liked about this actress too is that like Lanfear in these first 4 episodes at least definitely portrays or handles the whole situation of like pretending like she doesn't know what's going on in their relationship. And maybe that's why I'm a little more bothered, because you know the context of like, oh yeah, this is a dark friend and she's just acting, but it's acted so well that it's like, okay, yeah, I
well, one of the things that I really appreciate about the TV show is how it makes these relationships and villains believable, right? Like,
yes,
the relationship between Rand and Celine in the books is so superficial.
Right.
It really is. She's just the crazy ex-girlfriend and Rand finds her hot. But in the show, we have spent these first 4 episodes building, well, maybe not the first one, because he doesn't really show up at the first one except for the very end.
But we've at least some time.
Yeah, we've spent the last 3 episodes building up their connection and showing the viewer that they do have this relationship, so it feels more like a gut punch when we find out that she's a Forsaken and that she's Lanfear. I mean, obviously all of us knew it already, but for non-book readers,
there's more sort of like what the fuck?
And I do think like the show is just doing such a good job of adding a lot of gravity to situations. Like I said, that I didn't always feel gravity for in the books. Like I would read something happen and I was like, okay, like even the arches, like you knew it was traumatizing because the girls would tell you about it. But like watching that happen to Nynaeve and then watching her be like, I lived a life in there, I'm not okay. You're like, you are not okay.
Why would you be? Oh my God.
I think that you feel things more deeply with the show, with how they have developed the characters and the events than you do in the books, where a lot of the times we're told stuff, but we don't really get a great sense of emotion behind everything.
So you're just getting more characters introduced and they have similar feelings about everything. And you're not spending a ton of time.
That they're able to go this deep into everything with so much less breathing room.
And
it's really impressive.
These shows are chocked full of plot. Like there are so many moments where you're just like, oh, this conversation is deeply important and like you need to be paying attention. Like they do not have room for like air very much.
Right.
Well, so many of the scenes do like multiple jobs, right? Because
Yes.
they convey the plot, they increase the character development, they make the viewers feel a specific way. Like everything is just has so many layers to it.
Absolutely.
And even with Leandrin, like her character, she's obviously like in all these scenes looking evil all the time. So they kind of knew that they were going to be doing that with her. So they just let you have more depth to her so that when it happened, you felt worse about it. Where you're like, oh, now I feel bad that like, I know she's doing this because she's scared for her son. And you know, she's doing this like because she really believes in power and using all the tools in her toolkit to get to power. And it's like, oh, that actually like gives validation to it instead of like one day I woke up and I just decided to be a dark friend.
They give her motivation.
Yeah.
And they really flesh out her character in a way that was not in the books. And I feel like the books, for all that they're very long, and for all that there are a lot of them, there are so many characters that besides the main, like the Emmonsfield Five and Moraine and Lan, so many of the characters don't have the page time to be expanded upon. And the show has cut back on a lot of that. Like they've cut a lot of characters to be able to make better use of the ones that do appear.
Well, and I will say that they also do a good job of like, because this is an Amazon show, they have like certain features in an Amazon show where they have background characters named. So like, even if you don't know who the character is, who's like in a talking scene, they will name them. And a lot of times they pull directly from people in the book. And I do like that because then people who are like huge book nerds can go for like hours and be like, oh, I did a deep dive, and did you know who that was? That was this person, that was this person. And like it's enough there without like taking away from the show to do it. They're just
Except
letting it add.
at one point, so this is something that it kind of relates, but at one point there's a gray sister, Joya, who shows up in the background of one of the shots. And she's bald, except that in the books, she's described as having luscious, like, brown hair. And that's like the only thing that she gets a little bit more in the books, I think, but like that's her main defining characteristic. So I just think it's really funny that this bald sister in the show is supposed to be the character that has this beautiful hair.
That's amazing. I do love
That's
that.
like the one thing that I would love to see Sarah like go off on a rant about. Like people complain about this show is not accurate to the books, and Sarah being like, "Yeah, can you
have justice for Joya?"
I need Sarah to do like a 2-hour podcast on like all the tiny, like they didn't get this dress right. There are this many stitches and this many seams.
Start making highlights in your reread, Sarah.
Yep.
Is there something like in the first 4 episodes that like a certain arc or a certain character that has like stood out to you guys as like kind of a standout star, or is it just enjoyable to see like all the different things come together? Except
Nynaeve, for me.
Nynaeve.
She was like far and away my favorite. Moraine is a close second, but I think a lot of her scenes started to get not repetitive, but it was sort of like it was making the same point a number of times. And while it was always good, I think Nynaeve was moving forward and had enough like momentum to sort of freshen it up with everything that she was in. And so I think across the board, I think it was the most solid sort of quality.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that, specifically because my answer changes for the back half of the season.
Right.
But we're talking about specifically the first 4 episodes. So I think that really would be Nynaeve and her journey in the tower as, you know, someone who is really reluctant, doesn't really want to be there, can't really use her power, goes through this really traumatic experience during her accepted test, and then comes out the other end and has to deal with that and
Right.
what happened to her. I think that is one of the most compelling storylines in the first half of the season that kind of gets wrapped up in the first half of the season. Like a lot of the other plot points could carry on, but I think that specifically is more self-contained.
Right.
Yeah, I was gonna maybe just to be different, be like, oh, Rand was fairly interesting, but I think Nynaeve is the one that you have to really say that that's the most interesting and the most growth is happening in that line there. But I do agree that when we get into the next 4 episodes, I have a different answer of like a character or storyline that I'm drawn to.
I think my favorite is also probably the Nynaeve stuff. It's also different in the back half. Yeah. I will say that a close second is definitely Lan. I do enjoy a lot of Lan's storyline in this specifically because he seems to be a little bit on a searching mission. And I also really enjoyed, I don't love Rand as a character, but I'm very interested in the fact that they have lots of details with Rand that work for me for his storyline, specifically like the discussion of his madness is creeping in, the discussion of like Logain is creeping in, like all of that is kind of coming to close with him. And I think that they're doing that in a really effective way. I also, for another fan favorite, just something that makes me happy, every time I see Alana and her warders, I love their storyline so much. Honestly. Like I think every time they're on screen, they shine.
Yeah, they're great. So good.
It's really good.
It's so good. And I cannot talk about like their storyline is so effective. Like when they're all talking collectively to Shiriam and they're like all having a moment where they're speaking the same, they're finishing each other's thoughts and sentences. And you see how long they've been together and like how much of an effect they've had on each other. And Shiriam at the end is like, well, good enough. Well, lucky enough for me, you guys only count for 1 vote. Like walks out of the room. And then they go travel with Lan and you figure out like, I just think it's a really interesting way to tell a much deeper story with kind of ancillary characters where you hear about like I fell in love with the warder. I fell in love with an Aes Sedai. You guys always make me feel like the third wheel. Like, you see that they've had to grow as like characters within their own
Right.
story. And then when they talk to Lan, it's like, well, I hate the feeling of her in my head at all times. So she respects me enough and trusts me enough that she masks it. And that's okay for us. And Lan's like, does the White Tower know? Because they wouldn't approve. And they're like, no, because they don't need to.
Right.
We know enough to keep our own council. So I do love Alana so much. I hope they change her, because I would.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be
Hate it.
so mad if they have made her so
Yeah.
great and she still does that one shitty thing.
Yeah.
It would be bad. So yeah, I really like their storyline. I don't know. Like, how do we feel about these being the first 4 episodes? Like, do you think that there's enough build up there? Do you think that they're kind of lacking on anything other than the parent storyline, which we all
I think they were
made
smart
fun
to
of?
release the first 2 episodes together, because
It was the
if
first
it
3
would-
episodes.
was it the first 3? Okay.
Yeah, it was the
Okay.
first 3.
Because after I like rewatched these, I was pausing between each episode, and I was like, I feel like just the first episode is not strong on its own. It wasn't enough to be like, okay, I want to keep watching here. But it makes more sense if you are releasing the first couple or few together. That would hook me a little more.
I do sometimes wish they were a little bit shorter and they would have more episodes. Like, I wish we had like
Yeah.
an additional one, and then it wasn't a full like hour and like 3-minute runtime, just because then sometimes I lose steam on the episodes.
There were times I
Right.
remember watching it where I was just like, oh, I'm on the next oh shit, that's still episode 7. Oh,
I
okay.
really missed the cold opening sequence than the rest of the episode.
Mhm.
I
And-
liked that opening sequence with like
Yeah.
the weaves and everything.
Yeah,
That was cool.
I think it's great and beautiful. And there's something that I want to say about that when we talk about the back half of the season, because it's very spoilery and I don't want to mention it now, but there is a thing that they do with it that I think is, if it's true, I think is really great. But I did, for the first 7 episodes, I did really miss it.
I definitely feel like they do run a little long. And I think it's really effective when you get to the 4th one. I feel like there's a good like first half to back half like momentum.
Mhm.
But the first episode, Laura, I think you're right. It's a very big like 6 months later. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, they have to reestablish everything and they don't have the momentum of previous
Mhm.
events to sort of carry them forward.
Yeah.
I think they think the reveal of Rand, like with the lantern at the end, is going to be like this whole like, and it's not as
Yeah, there's
much
not
of a
enough
shock.
happening there.
Or you need like a little bit of like, I don't know why they need like 2 episodes of Perrin like walking around for the horn. Like, that could be a scene, and then they get attacked by like the Sunshine, and then you have that like a little bit more wound throughout, and you
Yeah.
have that momentum there to like kind of break up some of the stuff, because as it stands, the first episode is like Nynaeve and Egwene in the White Tower, Moraine investigating, and then the Fade attack at the very, very end. But by then you've like been with them for a really long
Yeah.
time. So I don't know. Do we have any final like big like we loved this about the first 4 episodes, or like we didn't? Like, anything big that comes to mind?
I was really surprised how much I liked the White Tower stuff, because I remember reading the books and being like, get on with it already. I really was bored with a lot of that reading the book. So I was expecting not to be bored with it in the move or in the show, because it was clearly they've done a really good job sort of streamlining a lot of it. But I wasn't expecting it to be a lot of my favorite stuff.
How much of that do you think is they've streamlined it? And how much of that do you think is you are older now and enjoy that reading or watching that kind of politicking more?
I don't actually know, because I read it when I was fucking 17. I was like, where are the sword fights? I was like, so I think there's probably, because like, especially after going to college and things like that, I started appreciating more of the sort of what you were saying, like the politicking and everything. So that might be a factor in my enjoyment of that as well.
I do.
And now I'm just questioning everything right now.
Sorry, Connor.
I do also think that they did cut a lot of the fat out of the White Tower, where it's like on this day
Yes.
they went to this class, on this
They
day.
didn't have
Like,
anything with the Gray Man, did they?
no.
But
There
I don't
was-
think that the Gray Man had anything to do with the White Tower.
No.
Wasn't there
actually.
a thing at some point in the White Tower where there was some sort of assassination attempt?
There, I mean, quite a few times. Like there was
In,
that
like, the
that place
first-
was getting
I thought
infiltrated
there was a
all the
thing
time.
in book 2 where there was some sort of like nearly invisible dude who attacked someone in the White Tower.
I think
I don't
someone
remember
does
that.
get attacked at some point because I do kind of remember that, and I think like Egwene stops it maybe.
Yeah.
But
I was waiting for that moment because that was like I specifically remember that moment because I was so
Bored.
me and my 17-year-old brain was just like, oh, finally violence at long last.
I think it helps that a lot of the times, like they are so quick to be like, oh, well, they want to learn about the Ajas. Let's have Nynaeve learn about the yellow one, which is going to be the most interesting to her. And then afterwards, like Leandrin has this little speech about every single one. And it happens pretty swiftly. Like she's speaking
Yeah.
pretty fast in that scene. So if you're interested, you can definitely like rewind, go back to it. But it is like something where they're teaching you and they're doing info dumps in a really effective way throughout the
Right.
series. So like I enjoyed having the one scene about them teaching them how to weave. And then just as time goes on, they kind of talk about like mimicking weaves or when like Egwene is able to make the fire weave and like Leandrin pulls it back. So you know that like there is teaching happening, but you don't need to see every single lesson. Like,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think this is something that I enjoyed, and I enjoy this about the whole season, but it's something that was brought up previously. I think Sarah mentioned it, is how they have really humanized or at least given us motivations for a lot of the villains. And we see that with Ishamael a lot and Leandrin a lot in this part of the show, but I think I appreciate that maybe the most out of what's happening in this season, just because a lot of my complaints about the book villains were just that they're just over the top evil at times, and it just didn't really seem to make too much sense. Where in this series, this TV series, we're getting a little more like, this is the reason why they're acting like this, and maybe this is why this person is going to do this. And I kind of like having a little more of that background.
Yeah, you don't have like if in the book if the villains were any more evil, they'd be tying damsels to railroad tracks.
Yeah.
Whereas this is a lot more sort of complicated, and they're giving them more to work with.
Yeah.
So for the first 4 episodes that we just went over, what would you guys like rate it on a 1 to 10 on like enjoyment or like how effective they're doing or just overall?
I think I'd say the first 4 episodes, I'd give it like an 8.
Yeah.
I was gonna go 7.5 or 8.
Yeah, my
the
attention wandered occasionally, but for the most part, I thought that everything was really well done and compelling, and I enjoyed it. And I thought that they did a great job.
I'm at more of a 7, I think.
Yeah, I think I'm at a 7.5. So glad we're all like pretty even keeled
Yeah.
on how we feel about it.
I'd
Like
rank the
good,
back
not
half.
great. Welcome back to our bonus content. This is our bonus content. So we're looser, and we are joined again by Sara of Fiction Fans fame and CM Caplan, Connor Caplan. Welcome back, both of you.
Thank you. I like how you call it
you.
fame. I appreciate that.
Anytime we have people come on, I always say of fame. I just think it's funny because like a lot of times we will mention you on the podcast of like, oh yeah, I was listening and like Sara on Fiction Fans. And so I'm like, well, we talk about you enough where it's just like Sara of Fiction Fans fan, like or
Fiction
Fiction Fans fame. I said it too fast. And I also do the same with like Sandra over at Story Darlings. So I'm always like Sandra of Story Darlings fame. So it's just like we mention you enough on the podcast that you get your own name tag. But they joined us all of 5 minutes ago in the real world, but
Yes.
you never know in this
We're
virtual
farther
space.
in the future now.
We are farther in the future to discuss the first 4 episodes of the Wheel of Time. We did a plot breakdown of it, but now we're just going to talk the back half of the season and our reactions because when we texted Sara about doing episodes 1 through 4, we hadn't seen the back half yet, and then she was like,
that's because not all of the episodes were out yet.
right.
Yeah.
So we asked you guys early on to like get you on, and it was just like, yeah, 1 through 4, totally. And then we were discussing like future things like scheduling, and Sara was like, I'm actually really upset that I didn't get to talk about episode 6, which was my favorite episode. And so we are having a fun time talking, but all of us were talking around the back half of the season.
Yeah.
And so I was
Yeah.
like, well, why don't you guys just stay on and we will continue to chat. So what were our reactions to episodes 5 through 8 of Wheel of Time?
I thought they were
So
even better than the
So
first
good.
4 episodes.
They were fantastic.
Yeah, they were
so
they were
good.
so good.
They got so much in there. Holy shit.
They were really harrowing. I mean, because Egwene gets captured by the Shanshan and has to deal with all of that plot, and it's so
Yeah.
hard to watch. But Madeline Madden absolutely deserves an Emmy nomination for
Oh
her
my
performance
gosh.
because she
Seriously.
is so incredible.
I
Oh,
have
And
absolutely.
Zelia Mendes-Jones as Rena is also fantastic.
I was just gonna say the person that plays Rena is fantastic too. Their duo of oh my gosh, all those scenes that they are in, it's just like
Yeah,
It's so
incredibly
harrowing.
difficult to watch.
yeah.
It's so bad to watch. Like Laura warned me where she was like, hey, could you be in the right mindset before you watch this? Like, I don't think you'll do well because it's like that difficult. And it was so harrowing to watch her. And then like the character growth that Egwene goes under in those like couple of episodes
Oh my
is
god.
so excellently done where you know how like affected she is and how isolated she is. And it's kind of the first time where like Egwene's been that isolated from any other character. And just the acting, the growth she has, like the hardened exterior she walks out of that with is just it's
It's
mind-boggling.
crazy. Like she's far and away, if we're talking the whole season, probably the best arc.
Yes.
Um,
I was just
Yeah.
gonna say that, Connor, because
Yeah.
we had previously talked about this in our other episode covering 1 through 4 that we all were like, oh, well, Nynaeve was probably the one we were most interested in. But if you look at this as like an overall season,
Yeah.
Egwene far and away the most
Yeah.
interesting
For
and
sure.
most developed character.
And
The bit where she pours the water out at the end just fucking broke me. I
Mhm.
had to like pause
So
and like
sad.
take a minute to just be like, holy fuck.
Mhm.
and like throughout the season, she's just like Rena is breaking her every time she's in there, and she like can't. And that's like the worst part of the Damane like storyline is how it like
Yeah.
invades your thoughts and it invades like your actions and it interprets them and you cannot go against them. And so like Egwene throughout the entire series is like trying to fight for herself and trying to like just exist. And she can't even do that because like her own mind betrays her to the point where like they have to break her mind first. It's
Mhm.
terrifying.
I think it's so much more visceral than her capture in the books.
Mhm.
Yes.
Because like that is still really hard to read. Like it's you definitely feel for
Mhm.
Egwene in the books,
Right.
and you know that she's being tortured, and like Rena takes away her name, and there are all of these terrible things that happen. But just the way that it's portrayed in the show is so in front of you. Like you
Mhm.
can't ignore what's going on. And as we've said, both actors are just phenomenal at conveying the horror of it. And like Rena thinks that she's doing a good thing. And that's
Right.
part of what makes it so terrifying is that Rena truly believes in what she's doing and truly believes that Egwene is, because she's a channeler, subhuman and doesn't deserve any of like the rights to live that everyone else has.
Well, and you have like a moment where Egwene is like, I feel so sorry for you that you would do this to another woman. And Rena goes, oh, honey, you think you're a woman? And it's just the most like
Yo.
dehumanizing
Mhm.
experience. And you're just sitting there like kind of broken for Egwene in that moment where she's having
Right.
this moment of like, just see me. And she's like, no. Oh, God. And then there's
And then
the
there's
moment.
the other part of this whole, well, this is towards the end of this whole arc where Egwene is finally able to become free of her Damani, but she has figured out the reason that or Egwene is no longer a Damani, I should say. And she figures out the reason that they are able to have such a connection with each other. And when we see Rena starting to make this like, or start to have this epiphany as well of why they're able to have such a connection, I thought that was really well acted. I was really
Mhm.
impressed.
I am so glad she killed her this time. as
Yeah.
opposed to the books where they're like, you can't do that. She's like beats the shit out of her, but they're like, you can't kill her, then you're no better than her. Like, that's not how anything works.
Well, and it really, because like there's that one scene where Egwene really wants to pick up the pitcher and she can't, and you see her broken on the floor, and then Rena breaks and beats her.
Yeah.
And it's awful because, like this woman is like, I'm being kind to you, I'm doing this. But then you see her anger and you see like that's all just like a facade.
Right.
Yeah, like Rena doesn't really believe in that. Rena does believe that she should control Egwene, and she doesn't believe in all this stuff she's putting down.
Right.
And then when the roles are reversed, she's begging for her life. And like Egwene is just like, no, you took away any ounce of humanity I had. Like,
Right.
we'll
you
both
are a
die.
captive.
She's like, well, that's the way it's gotta be.
Yeah. Like I will die. Like,
right. At least I'm taking you with me. It's just like it's such and I love this that this show is able to get you to the point where it's like that's a character moment that absolutely makes sense, where it's like, as long as you also die, I will commit to this.
I also really appreciate that, like, it shows throughout the show that they don't really heal Egwene when she's going through her process. So it lets you show how much time has passed, because you see her in that one episode where she is like bloodied and battered. And by the time of the battle in Hamon's head, or I forget the name, but she's completely healed. So like a huge amount of time has passed and a huge amount of even more training. And that just like adds gravity to the situation. I thought they did a really good job of like showing how much time had passed between the beginning of the season and the end of the season.
It's also maybe like a sick way to think about this, but like the amount that Egwene kind of steps into her power that she has within the back half of the season, like even though it's in the most unfortunate of circumstances, like the way that she's able to recognize that she's incredibly powerful, I thought was really amazing and kind of heartbreaking to see it happen this way.
Well, because she's in the next season, there's probably going to be like her saying, I wanted that power, I wanted to be seen as powerful, and then look what happened to me because I wanted that. And that's like going to be awful, because it's not her fault.
Also, I think they really effectively have a conversation where Rena is saying like, you're so powerful and you're an incredible channeler. Didn't your White Tower ever tell you that? And that cuts so hard because they've spent so much time showing the reader, showing the viewer that Egwene hasn't really felt like that because of her experience in the tower.
Right.
So I thought that was really effective too. And heartbreaking that she's having this conversation that should be triumphant with her slaver, basically.
Egwene was definitely the roughest character and the most interesting character arc. I do feel a little bit weird in the back half of the episodes because I think they're so good and they're so amazing. But because we started focusing on a Egwene story arc, I also felt like it did Nynaeve a disservice, where she almost got pushed to ancillary character a little bit. And then it was just like her fighting with Elaine. And there were a couple of moments where like I got annoyed with Nynaeve again, because sometimes she can get a little bullheaded. And I was like, oh yeah, but like we all just went through a huge discussion of like all the trauma she underwent. And then I was like, why was I annoyed with her in those 4 episodes? And I was like, oh, because they like forgot to mention it for a while.
I actually really enjoyed seeing her bicker with Elaine, because I think that it sets up really well kind of the development when they're in Falm, and they're trying to work together to free Egwene, and they have to have this adjustment in the relationship. And then when Rema, the yellow sister, like leaves you, and they take comfort in each other, like so I didn't get too annoyed by Nynaeve's actions because there was that payoff later.
Right.
That's fair. I think I only got annoyed when she was talking to Loyal, and Loyal was like, oh, you were the daughter heir. And she was like, don't let it get to her head. And I was like, why would Nynaeve say that? It just doesn't matter. It's just like, but it was a very small nit where I was just like, well, we had all this like great growth with her. And then in the back half, I was like, oh, we didn't get to focus in on as much on her, and that's a
Didn't
disappointment.
follow
I
through.
do
Yeah.
think that happened to me too, though, a little bit, where I was watching just like as the episodes released, and I did start to kind of fall into that pattern of like forgetting about what Nynaeve had been through. And it was a little bit more difficult to be like, oh, Nynaeve. And when you're not getting as much of her, and that's the only exposure you're getting to her, is just her kind of like having little fights with Elaine here and there.
I do think sometimes the writing like pulls different characters to the forefront and then lets others go
Right.
by the wayside.
Yeah.
Because we also have that issue with Moraine, because Connor, you said in like the previous episode, like Moraine just got a little bit repetitive for me. And I was like, yeah, but in the back half, it's like you see all of her motivations that have been happening through the
Right.
first 4 episodes, and
It's
like
really this payoff.
she's giving her life for this. She was giving her happiness. She never wanted this. She got thrust into it. And now she's just given so much that she's like, I have to see this through because there's nothing
Right.
else for me. And the scene between her and Swan, where Swan makes her listen to her because she swore on the oath rod for her, was one of the most heartbreaking like breakups in my mind in history.
Yeah.
Like,
Especially when we like get that background of them like growing in a relationship and deciding like, oh, we're gonna get married and we're gonna have this
Oh,
kind of life,
God,
and then it's just
yeah.
like all of a sudden they're like, oh wait, no, now we're on this quest to find the Dragon Reborn, and we have to do this to save the world. We have to give up everything that we dreamed of. Ugh.
Well, and I think it's really hard. I mean, to your point about some characters getting pushed to the front and other characters getting pushed to the back in episodes, I think it's really hard when, yes, the episodes are long, you know, they're anywhere between 60 to 70 minutes, but that's still, there's only so much time to focus on
Right.
so many characters.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that you have to pick and choose whose storyline serves the episode best to
Right,
focus
yeah.
on.
I
But
think I just wish sometimes they would like mention stuff. Like with Moraine, they at
Yeah.
least mentioned they had Lan there as a foil to like, yeah,
Yeah.
she's being a bitch, but
Mhm.
like Lan is investigating. Lan is trying to like find some solace and peace for her. And so you get like, oh, she's in incredible amounts of pain. And so this is all coming from like being isolated and being kicked out of the tower and like not being able to see Swan again. And like then she finally gets to see her, and there's just this devastating moment of like, I trusted you with this oath for the betterment of everything, and now you're betraying me and you don't trust me. And I also loved that like in that episode the opening scene was 20 years previously, because like you see how 20 years has affected them and like how jaded you can be when you enter into something of like, well, of course we love each other, but we have to do this now because we've been like working with the secret. But then it gets warped in each of their minds because they both had to go their separate ways for so long. So
Mhm.
they no longer see things the same way.
Yeah. Speaking of Moraine, and that scene where Swan compels her, that reminds me of what I wanted to talk about the opening, but couldn't.
Yeah.
And so a friend pointed out that the opening theme is actually Moraine's theme. And so it makes sense that we don't have the opening scene in the first 7 episodes because she is shielded. And we get it back in episode 8 when she's unshielded.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, I
And
love
that blew my mind. I don't know how intentional that is. If that is the like
That's incredibly well thought
Intention.
out.
that's definitely if there was a reasoning behind it beyond just we're taking the opening out because we want the time for the actual show,
right.
then that is incredible.
That's interesting.
So like I think it'll be really interesting to see if that continues in later seasons and like how that works with some of the other things that happen in the books that might happen in the show.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And whether so I
That's
thought that
phenomenal,
was
actually.
I thought that was a really, really interesting theory.
What did we think about the introduction to the Aiel? Because we have like a little bit more Aiel characters a little bit earlier than we're used to.
I liked it.
I was really mean accidentally when I
We're
called
so
them
mean.
I called them, I think, like dollar store Fremen.
Oh No.
I think the Aiel deserve better than that. Although I have to say, let's see, that's episode 5, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
I kind of struggled a little bit with episode 5 because it felt like it was a lot of book references that didn't necessarily need to be there. I don't know. It just felt like very book heavy in a way that didn't work for me entirely. But I
Like
liked
book
seeing
heavy when it was-
Avienda, and I liked Bane and Chiad, so I don't know.
I really liked I do understand why it's book heavy. I also think it was a little book heavy because they're introducing a new race of people that we've heard about so much. So you almost
Yeah.
need all of that
Mhm.
info dumping that like you always wish were a little bit more effective when they do it with like a very specific side like character group where it's like at one point they have them motioning for like so much water and it's like okay like, we understand but
Right.
it's just a lot of like Avienda. I like when Perrin gets paired with other characters because again Perrin's
Yeah.
kind of boring in this season.
Yeah.
So when you pair him with more interesting characters like he'd been with Loyal long enough
It makes it more interesting, yeah.
yeah
His scenes don't drag on quite as much. He's got someone. He's like in this season. He's often like only as good as who he can play off of.
yep.
Kind of, yeah.
So it was good to see and he's like more accepting than most people so like he goes at things with curiosity versus like I'm right, which is
Yeah,
like everyone
it would be
else.
terrible to pair Nynaeve with somebody like that.
Oh no! Oh no, that would be.
I mean, she would immediately butt heads with the IO. That would end poorly.
Could you imagine them being like, we have a ceremony to thank the land for the water it provides, and she's like, here we just drink water, and walks away.
Just drink it.
Oh man.
I do like what they did with the maiden hand language though, because I saw
Yes.
on someone associated with the show, and I forget if it was the official Twitter or if it was Race Twitter or something, tweeted a clip where they were talking about how they created it, and they worked with a deaf consultant to actually develop the language, which I really appreciated.
That's amazing.
Appreciate that. That's amazing. I like the handmaiden talk. I thought that was really effectively done.
Yeah.
I do like how they sprinkled in different like teachings about the Aiel where like even throughout the season, because like in the earlier episodes at one point Rand is helping that sword master and he's like grumbling about the Aiel and he's like, but you're women, they're fierce warriors. So like they drop a little sprinkle before you see Avienda do like her fights.
Yeah.
I also liked the storyline of Perrin at the end. Like he's been boring throughout the season, but I liked the sprinkling of him meeting Dane Bornhold.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty well
good.
done.
I actually understand in the show why Dane is mad at Perrin.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah, that's another character that in the books he's like just cartoonishly evil, and it's just like, shut up, Dane Bornhold.
I saw you near my father. I think you murdered him.
also another character that didn't need to be cast so hot.
Yeah.
Oh my God, you're right.
I mean, I don't love a blonde man. I get that he is a little hot. He's not that hot because I don't like blonde men, but it's just a perspective thing.
I mean, I'm not actually a big fan of blondes either, but like Jay Duffy's a good looking man.
He was good looking.
Agreed.
Yeah, he's blonde, hot, and kind of evil, so it's kind of like I see the appeal.
And I really liked his character for the TV show where there's like enough there where he could have been kind of a good guy, where like people are like, you're not sharp enough, you're not as bad as your dad. And like he questions his dad in ways where his dad is like, you idiot, it worked out for us, we work for the light. And so when his dad gets killed by Perrin at the end of the season, you can see where he switches and he becomes a zealot instead of
It's also because we see him kind of have that friendly relationship with Perrin in an earlier episode, so it feels like more of a betrayal, you know.
Yeah.
And like he calls him Two Rivers, and then him like screaming as he gets pulled away. It's like, oh, I foresee bad things in the future, and like that.
It's a perfect setup.
Yeah.
It's so well done. And I do like, for as much as like Perrin was so boring, it paid off in a weird way where again his magic does not, it looks sparkly and fresh and shiny, so it never feels evil.
Mhm.
But then when it overtakes him and it makes him do something that he like lost control over, I was like, well, that was the buildup we were all looking for. I just didn't believe you do that. So like
Right.
I needed
We
to be
needed some-
expecting it.
We needed something more concrete, like an earlier sort of scene where something like that either happens or threatens to happen. So there's like much more concrete stakes of like, this is why he needs to get control of this.
And well, and
Yeah.
like less of conversations with Elias, where Elias is like, be careful, the wolf might take over. Where he like sees Elias do something where he's like, I'm uncomfortable that just happened. I think you're a monster. And Elias is like, well, you have the capacity for evil just like I do. And then like that's a better, but they didn't do
It's
that.
better,
So
but it's still so abstract. It
Mhm.
needs to, I feel like it needed to feel more, not like the Hulk specifically, but like this idea of like, there needs to be more of a tangible consequence of what happens if you give into it, and I think he needed to be tempted by it at least a little bit more, if that makes sense.
Well,
Mhm.
we
For it
do
to
have,
actually,
I
sorry,
mean,
go ahead.
we do have like him killing his wife in the first season.
There's that.
We have that conversation that he has with Ingtar in one of the very early episodes,
Yeah.
maybe even episode 1, about when they come across the all of the killed village.
Yeah.
And they're burying the dark friend, and he's like, how can you do this? I have so much anger inside me. But it's still very, I mean, in this season, it's very academic.
yeah.
Right.
And
It's
not
downplayed a lot.
Yeah.
I will say I did laugh when Valda got attacked by a wolf again.
What are the
He
chances?
deserves it.
It happened again. And I literally said, do you think he ever gets tired of getting attacked by wolves? It happens multiple times in the same exact way. That poor man, just history. I mean, he's evil and awful and he deserves to die, but how is he still alive? And he just gets attacked by wolves over and over and
Literally.
over again. He's just sitting in the corner going, but the wolves, the wolves.
How did everybody feel about Sarath and Turak?
I had some thoughts about this one. This is one of those things where I understand why they did what they did. I was really looking forward to the duel with Turak because I remembered really liking that from the book. And again, I should disclaim, I read it when I was 17 and went, finally there's some violence. I've been looking forward to a duel for like 800 pages. So that was part of my nostalgia about it. And I get that Rand does not necessarily practice swordsmanship, so if he engaged him on that level, Turak would have killed him. I didn't think they could have probably done a bit more to put him on the back foot or something, like maybe have him blocked and have some kind of like some way he can't channel has to find a clever way around it. But if you do that, that time gets leached away from a bunch of other moments in the finale. And so like I get why they did it, but also it's like I wanted to see more from that.
I do not remember any action scene ever. I am like the first to say I black out action scenes. So I was like, that was cool.
Is that like everybody was expecting a big sword fight, I think,
right.
And it just ends up being one quick channeling moment.
An anticlimax, yeah.
But yeah, a lot of people were kind of complaining about it, and
yeah,
I get it, think
but
it was that bad.
I mean,
I get it, but I don't see. Sorry, go ahead.
It makes sense that they can't include it though, because like by this point in the books, Rand has trained with Lan, like he's a lot better of a swordsman. And in this, he's had a couple of scenes. I mean, he's had a couple of practice sessions with the guy in the asylum and nothing else. So he doesn't have that background and would just immediately die. Rafe has said that we are going to get him training with Lan later. So presumably like he'll have some kind of nice sword battle at some point. But yeah, it was a little bit of a bummer not to have it with Turak, because I think that everyone was kind of geared up for it. But ultimately I didn't mind it.
It's one of those things where it's like I would have liked to see that. I don't know how they could have done it any other way than how they did it, really.
Yeah.
The one thing that I was disappointed in, I feel like I may have talked about it when I was giving some initial thoughts in the group chat where we arranged all of this. I didn't like the way Rand got his scar in this version, because like the whole like in the book I remember he's fighting in the sky with what's his face, and he has to like get stabbed so that he can get close enough to cut him down, and it was like, I mean, I know I haven't read all the books, but it seemed like it was built a very sort of important thematic and character beat for him to go through, and then that scar was with him for the rest of the series as like this huge sort of thing that's there, that he's like a weight he's carrying, and for it to just happen in such a Looney Tunes fashion of like, I just expected Porky Pig to appear on the screen, like, that's all folks, and just sort of the camera to wink out, like it was just such a, like, I feel like they should, like, that's such an important moment that I wish that they had done more with that, or made it given the scar more of an impactful meaning.
Hard agree, and I almost think it's confusing the way that it's portrayed.
Yeah.
I don't remember how he gets his scar in the books. I had no problem with how he gets it in the show. I didn't find it confusing. Like,
I thought it was confusing
fine.
because like all of a sudden it's just like he has that scar, and then it's like, oh, there's like the mark on him, and then you're like, wait, what? Did I miss
I
something
think it's
here?
confusing if you've read all the books and you know the importance of those, but I actually didn't mind them. I'm a little bit with Sarah where like I feel like they changed Matt's character enough from the books where he was like, oh, I remember I was always a like hunter of the horn. Like he didn't really figure out what was going on with him for a while in the books. And so they delineated from him so much where it's like, well, he got his staff in this book and he used the dagger. And I really liked that change. I thought that was interesting.
That was good. I did like that.
I laughed so hard at like watching him like wrap it up and tie and then like use it to stab people. And I was like, there's no way. Like that
why
would
was it a
fall
spear?
right off.
No,
like
that's good.
Well, because he used his spear in the book. So it's like it's a callback to the book. So I actually really like that. I just call foul on like someone needs to tie that with like better gloves.
Yeah, it would have fallen off by this point.
Yeah, like it would have fallen off. Like it's a magic,
like watching
it's a magic
someone
dagger,
like attack someone with like a bunch of markers stacked atop each other, but like suddenly it's actually like a lightsaber. Like, no, that's gonna shatter into a million pieces. What are you doing?
Like,
why
I was with it enough to be like, well, I can just pretend like magic sword,
right,
whatever, or magic dagger. Okay, whatever. So I liked that they made that change because it condenses a lot of Matt's storyline that just kind of happens off in the distance in other books where it's like, well, yeah, it's easy to cut the fat on that and just be like, he now has his dagger on a staff. Like, great, he had those in the books. I like that he caused Rand's injury, not so much for the confusion, or we know that the stab is super important, but moving forward, that's going to weigh on Matt's mind in a way that it wouldn't weigh on a lot of other people, because Matt is a very specific person who like is a little bit of a coward and has to fight not to be, and so he's going to internalize that he did that to Rand and he caused that pain, and he's not going to be able to process it like other characters. So I think that will be interesting. I did think it was Looney Tunes that Elaine comes up and heals him, and then he sees
he's
her
like,
outlined, and he's like, "Who are you?" And I was like, Rand would not care.
I think that it can lead to a lot of good character moments. But I do think, even as they explore that and this is probably me not being fair to the show, I will grant, while they explore that, there will probably be like moments of like, I did this, and like, you were aiming for the other dude. He turned intangible. You didn't know he could do that. This wasn't you doing it. I could like. While I'm sure it will lead to stuff, there's gonna be something in the back of my mind being like, "This, come on."
Well, are you telling me that you wouldn't feel bad if you like unintentionally stabbed someone because you thought that you were aiming
at? Share a story from earlier today.
A stabbing story?
Yeah, it's a sword story. I have I don't know if I have a little closet behind me. We're in a podcast, so I just like visualize it in your mind's eye. There's a door behind me that I hung up one moment.
No.
This is
we're getting props.
I hung this up as like a fun little just sort of decoration for the podcast, because I forgot whether or not you guys had visuals. And so I hung that up earlier today thinking that's going to be so neat. And then my fiance comes in is sort of like just immediately goes for the door. It drops and slices her finger. And I'm just like, oh shit. But it was a whole moment. And I mean, I felt bad, to be clear. Because I'm just like, I was like, this is clearly like right in front of the door. She's obviously going to see it. I did not think that, like, oh, if she's just really gunning for it for the closet door, she's not going to notice to open it. And I felt bad about it. But I'm not going to be like, for like the next like week being like, I've destroyed your finger.
But if you
were
cut
trying
off
to
her
stab somebody
finger,
behind her.
but if you cut off her finger and she had to have it sewed back on and she had a scar of it, I think you would be pretty upset about it.
Like that was not a life-threatening wound.
Yeah. Like this is a light and like I also really just enjoyed the changes they made to Matt, especially in this final episode. He does get to meet everyone a little bit cartoony style. When he runs through the crowd, it says, "Perrin, my friend," and he's like jumping in the air.
I do need to real quick.
What are you doing?
I need to just say, as I was sharing this story, I got a text from her saying, "You should though. You need to blame yourself for what's happened to me."
But I liked that like Matt Cawthon had the like, I'm going to fight against Padon Fane. Padon Fane is the consummate like coward of actual cowardice where he runs away. I like that like Matt just uses his dagger to start cutting through things like a cartoon character. I'm okay with all of that. I thought it was fun. I like that he was like the hero of the horn. He remembered it, and he started speaking in the old tongue. I was like, great. We get to cut out. Are we going to cut out him going to talk to those foxes and snakes? I'm okay with it.
Can I mention really quickly though, like when he called the heroes of the horn, I thought there were going to be more. Like
I thought there were going to be so many more. Like
when that was all there was, I was like, where's the rest? Like, where are all of them?
I figured it was gonna be like the scene in Return of the King with the fucking ghost sweeping through Gondor.
Yeah, really, that's interesting because I always thought that there were only like 15 of them or whatever, however many we see.
I thought there were gonna be way more.
I thought there was gonna be a whole ghost army. Even when I was reading the books, I thought there was a ghost army.
I did too.
I never felt like that about the Heroes of the Horn.
I think that there's like 12 of them, guys.
Yeah.
And there were things where I was like, well, they need to have enough people there that you don't notice that they haven't cast Brigitte yet.
But they had Brigitte there.
Oh, they did. But like they had to have it like quick enough where if they want to recast her, it's okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's going to be the actual Brigitte.
Yeah.
Brigitte, but there was someone who was representing Brigitte.
Okay.
And so we got Uno back.
We did get Uno
well,
back.
That was a fun
moment.
I did like that.
So I liked all that. I kind of liked Matt's like ending storyline. I thought it was pretty effective, pretty quick. And like, I didn't mind him stabbing Rand. I did think it was silly that he thought he could just run through that guy and not have him just be a fated like smoke thing. It's like the thing of like, I'm the father of lies, drink this tea and you'll see all of your past lives. And it's like, maybe you won't. Maybe you'll just think you're going insane. Like, what did we think of Rand in the final 4 episodes? I think he just went a little bit too far back. Like he immediately found out that his new girlfriend was evil. And then he was like, but where's the queen? And I was like, why are we repeating old storylines?
I mean, I kind of understood it. I because they do have a deep connection that they've had for years. They care about one another. So if he finds out that she's like trapped somewhere, he's going to be concerned.
Yeah, I mean, I understood him asking about Egwene because we've spent the past however many episodes confirming the fact that both of them are still not over their exes. I did think, knowing what we know about Celine, I did think it was a bad idea to immediately ask to see his ex because Celine is obsessed with Luz and Rand. And so, like, obviously she's not going to take it that well, but Rand doesn't know that.
Right.
I thought I was more annoyed with Rand and this is definitely something that's accurate to the books, but I was more annoyed with him being kind of a turd to Moraine when it's like, Moraine is just trying to help you and has been doing this forever. Cut Moraine some slack. But it's just, that was very accurate to the books though, because in the books, I feel like Rand is constantly just like bickering with Moraine and won't listen to her ever.
I liked A lot of the scenes with Celine. I like those for obvious
Yeah.
reasons. The fucking headdress, the throne, perfect, iconic,
Okay.
no notes. I loved it.
Except that her headdress in
Yes,
the
I
dream world
remember.
does look like the neck piece that the Time Lords wear in classic Doctor Who.
That's
Look
not
it
a bug,
up.
that's a feature.
Look it up and I'm correct.
Hilarious.
That's all I can
I
see.
know exactly what you're talking about. That just makes it better for me.
Like, technically, this is supposed to be our world many, 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 many years in the future. So maybe,
So they've already
like,
watched
in
Doctor
another
Who.
world, she was just a
Right.
really
Yeah.
big
Yeah,
Doctor Who head.
exactly.
Yeah,
So,
I guess it's true. She could have just
Canon.
been a really big fan of classic Doctor Who.
Maybe
Yeah.
maybe the
Headcanon accepted.
maybe there
Yeah.
are Time Lords in this universe that visited way back in the past, but still in our future. And just no one remembers culturally, but like some of the fashion sense kept moving forward.
Sarah, you're absolutely right. Oh my gosh.
I'm so right.
I'm looking at the Google images. You're absolutely right.
I just love that, like, as soon as she pivots to evil, she's got like all the dominatrix gear
Oh my
ready
gosh.
to go, just on retainer for as soon as someone finds out that
I
she's a
do-
dark friend. She's like, let me just keep it around.
I do love her outfit when she sets the Forgate on fire.
Mhm. Oh my
Yeah.
And
gosh.
That
she's
was
got like
good.
that dark dress and the white cloak. That's
yeah.
a fantastic outfit.
Yes.
I loved all of her, like, I did like the hair slicked back. Like, I'm just going to
Yeah.
have like a little bit of modern mixed in with olden day.
Yeah.
Like,
That was so
similar,
much better than the original part.
similar to Ishii's like stuff where he's just wearing it all the time. And it's just like, oh, beautiful. No notes. So
Yes.
great.
Oh, he was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And she looks amazing.
I love that they make Ishii a canon nickname.
I love that.
Yes.
I also really liked, again, because we talked about this in the last episode together, but like the fact that they give Ishii and Lanfear like a lot of depth, and the fact that they kind of keep
Mhm.
talking about how they were a trio and they really trusted each other, and they all do actually want Luce with them. I'm calling him Luce because that's how they call him. Every time they call it, you'll hear them, they'll go Luce, and I'm like, why are they saying Luce? Like,
The British.
but like Ishii does want Rand to just turn to the dark side with him, and he actually wants that. It's not like to break the world. He wants to stop the world from turning. He wants everyone to just like be at rest. And like Lanfear does want to be with Luz. Like, she does actually want their
Mhm.
trio back together, which is why like he hadn't crashed all the seals yet. Ishii hadn't, because he does want to try to convince them just using the three of them. And I actually thought that was really effective storytelling and not something I
Yeah.
ever really got into with the books.
Agreed.
I mean, the Forsaken in the books, mostly they just run together and don't have that. I mean, they do have motivations, but they're not really well developed at all. Although I do like that in the books, all of the female Forsaken, except for Lanfear, are all related to their job somehow, and all of the male Forsaken, their motivations for turning to the dark is all Luz.
Yeah, it's all a man.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's like an inversion of I forgot the name of the trope. Damn it.
But yeah, it's a nice inversion.
Yeah, I like that.
What did everybody think of the reveal at the end of Mokidi?
I liked
I
it.
didn't know who that was. I haven't read that. I hadn't read that far. That was the like. I think this season. I mean, there's everything with Calendar in the next sort of season that I'll have some ideas about. But
If they do Calendar in the next season.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I don't even know, because I feel like a lot of the Dragon Reborn was sort of like, that was part of the reason I dropped off, was I was like, this didn't need to be a book. It's just bubbles of evil? For real? That's what you're going with?
Oh, the bubbles of evil.
Yeah.
It's just
I
it
thought
felt like so much nothing happened. So I haven't read that far ahead. I didn't know who that was until Sarah explained it to me. I was just like, who's this lady with big autism energy? She's giving me some Spectrum vibes. I like her.
I really liked that. I thought it was good.
I loved it. It was great.
I'm obsessed with the casting. I thought it was so
Mhm.
excellently done. Her entire energy just like spoke volumes at the end, and like just Lanfear's actual fear and like deep
Yeah,
seated like
that
horror.
was such a
It's
good
just
touch.
it was
I also
so
loved that it was
well
almost
done.
like a spider-like thing that was
Even her
happening there.
delivery,
Yeah,
her line
and
delivery.
it was just altogether just really a kind of creepy and unsettling scene because you're like, okay, if Lanfear's freaked out, we better be scared.
Like
Mhm.
even the way she was talking was like, I can't raise my voice too much because if I speak too loudly, I'll disturb the spider webs. Like fucking
Yeah,
holy fuck, it was crazy. And then
All of
I
her
loved
weaves were
her
spider
reaction,
webs.
just the absolute just sort of terror where it's like, if you can scare Lanfear, how the fuck terrifying do you have to be? Holy shit.
I also love that like Lanfear was going to double cross like
Mhm.
Ishi's plans and like take all of the seals out into the bottom of the ocean and sink it. And then she just walks in and they're all broken and like Mogideon is sitting there like ready to talk to her. And like it's such a vibe and it was so perfect for the end scene of season 2 to
Yeah.
set up like
Yeah.
what's going to happen in the next season.
I'm just real mad. We're probably going to have another like 1.5 to 2 year gap
I know.
Yeah.
because I need season 3 right now.
I know. It is upsetting.
It's very
I don't.
rough.
Do you guys? What are you expecting from season 3? Like,
Well, they
how much of like book 3 do you think is going to make it to season 3 versus anything that comes after?
I
I-
don't think a lot because there was just they just had a panel at New York Comic Con like yesterday where
Yeah.
Rafe was talking about how we're going to get the Aiel Waste and Sea Folk in this next season.
Ooh.
So
Okay.
I don't think there's going to be a ton of book 3. I think we're skipping ahead.
Okay.
That's going to make a lot of
Get
the
more of the
book
Shadow Rising.
loyalists pretty annoyed.
I don't know. I've lots of people who love the books. Like either you love the books and you love the TV show, or you love the books and you hate the TV show. So
Yeah.
like, there's not.
I mean, I love the first 5 books, so
Mhm.
I'm kind of
I
like excited if they're gonna, because like the 4th book was my favorite one out of the whole series. So if they are incorporating more of the stuff that happened in that one, I'm gonna be pretty excited because I really loved that book.
Yeah, I think the 4th book was my favorite one as well, if I remember
someone
what
I
happens
wouldn't
in it.
do.
I honestly cannot remember what book is what book anymore. But I'm just glad to take the ride with them. I really do trust Rafe with this. Like
Yeah.
he's gone
Yeah.
above and beyond in like both seasons, honestly. Um, like I just think that the show is being really well done. There's a good mix of book and actual like plot that makes sense on a TV show.
And even when they diverged from the books, which they did considerably in season 2, but it still comes together at the end of the season in a way that ties up all of these loose threads into something that resembles the book like events.
Mhm.
And
I did notice like a lot of people that had said like after the first season, like, oh, I hate the first season, blah, blah, I'm not watching anymore. There were a lot of people that I saw that were like saying, okay, well, I'm back on board now with the second
Yeah.
season.
Oh
And
wow.
I kind of think in the 3rd season that we're gonna see the shows kind of get into its stride a little
Mhm.
more, and that we're gonna see probably more fans and maybe a bigger fandom start developing with the show.
Yeah,
I hope
I
so.
agree.
Depending on how much they adapt, do you think that you guys I think know more about the book readers than I do. Do you think cutting as much of book 3 as they probably will be divisive for the people who are already fans of the show, or do you think it's going to be like a big enough, a smart
Well,
enough move to bring more people in, or what?
you have to cut large pieces of the books
Yeah.
if you're cutting
Oh yeah, no, I
14
don't
books into 8
disagree.
seasons.
Yeah.
So
I don't
think-
disagree. I was not the biggest fan of book 3 either. And it did sort of, there
I
was
think
a lot
it'll
of
be
wheel
okay.
spin. There was ironically a lot of wheel spinning.
I think it'll be okay. I think that we're probably going to start seeing a lot more people who haven't read any of the books start to get on board.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's going to be as big of a concern that we're cutting out a lot of material from this book and jumping to more of the things that happen in the next book or
Yeah.
whatever.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, I definitely think people are a little bit more trusting. And like some people who are fans hold the books more preciously than others.
Yeah, I've noticed
But
that.
I feel like those people are already out. Like I
Yeah,
don't think the
by
I don't
this
think
point.
the
Yeah,
third
well,
season's
and
gonna
that's
bring
true.
the
There are
breaking
some
point.
people that said like after watching a couple episodes of the second season that they're like, no, I'm done. Which I wish they would have given it more of a chance, because I think once we get into the later episodes of second season, it's really awesome. But
I mean,
Mhm.
I can respect people who say, I've given the show a shot. It's not for me.
Mhm.
Whatever,
Mhm.
but you do you and you enjoy the show. It's the book cloaks who constantly complain about the changes while hate watching the show. And I'm
yes,
like, why are
Oh
you
no!
why are you
You're not
investing
showing-
so much energy into this?
hate
Like,
watching,
just-
and then they go on Rotten Tomatoes or Google and they're giving it 1-star ratings and saying it's not anything like the book. I'm like,
like just
Really,
just
if you hate the show that much, jump on like one podcast and bitch about it, and then that like that's what
Yeah.
I did for Rings of Power. Like, just get it out of
Yeah.
your system. Like, do one big thing that's just gonna get it out,
Or-
get it out there, and then just call it a day. Don't
or
just
like bitch
dedicate so much of your life.
bitch about it to the people who also don't like it. Don't
Right,
try
exactly.
to ruin
Oh,
it
yeah,
for the
you don't wanna
people
be
who
invading
are
the season.
enjoying it.
right.
Yeah, you don't want to be like, again, not to drop too heavy of a point on the Rings of Power comparison. I'm not going into spaces of other people who didn't who liked Rings of Power. Like, I can't believe you do this. Don't you know what a perversion of Tolkien's legacy this is? Like, fucking find something you like.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not that hard to just find things you
Right.
like and to not like review bomb. I always think like when you review bomb because you're like, this isn't like the books. I'm like, you're holding something too precious.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Why does this have the hold over you that it does? Like,
even if you do one bad review, like, okay, but when you start doing multiple, what are you doing?
Right, yeah.
Yep.
Again, get it out of your system and then let it go.
Right.
Take a
Right.
deep breath, seek out some therapy.
I rant about books I hate all the time. It's one of Laura's favorite things to listen to. But like once
Yeah.
I'm done, I don't like rag on anyone who posts a positive review of it. I'm always like, well, I'm glad they had a good experience with it. Was it
Yeah.
mine?
exactly. It's not like
Exactly.
you're seeking out more bad reviews to be like,
Yeah.
look, I'm sharing more 1-star reviews because I want other people to know how bad this is.
Yeah,
Right.
you're not commenting on their reviews. Man, I hated this book. You are so
Right.
wrong for liking it and
Yes.
enjoying it. And here are
Right.
the reasons why you're wrong.
Right. Like, it's a very specific brand. So I do feel like Wheel of Time, luckily enough, is a pretty big group of people, but there is a good group of great people who are like, well, I'm not going to hold this too precious. I am going to let you have jokes about it. And even if I don't love the show, that's kind of my business to not like the show.
Yeah.
So
But overall, really excited for season
I-
3.
Yeah.
I know I'm so sad it's going to be a while.
Yeah.
It's gonna be so long.
I know. At
Is
least
it
we
like
don't.
2024, 2025? Do we know? Is there any expected
I would
date?
expect 2025, but
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, I don't think we actually have any dates yet. And I don't think that season 4 has been greenlit yet either.
Oh,
So
no.
we're waiting on that as well.
I need to see if I can get a book out before he gets Wheel of Time season 3 out. That's my new goal. Is I need to beat him to the punch.
Me too. Why don't you and I
I'm in
both
a
have
race.
that goal? Why don't you and I both have that goal? And we'll do that.
I like that. Yes.
Yeah. So overall, what do you guys rate the season overall? I know we haven't like done a huge breakdown, but like knowing what you know.
I'd say for me, probably a 9. I really I enjoyed the first half of the season. I really loved a lot of the character development in the back half of the season. I thought those episodes were excellent. Overall, it was fantastic. But I also do tend to rate things pretty highly. I'm not a critical viewer or reader or anything, so
Hey, it can't be wrong if it's your review. It's all subjective.
I think I'd go 8 or 8.5 out of 10. Not far behind Sarah, but there were a couple of things in the beginning that and at one point at the end, I was just sort of like, none of it was enough to really kill my enjoyment. I really liked it, but there were just a few small things that like Perrin and things like that, where I just sort of like, okay, I'm gonna dock a few points for that, but overwhelmingly very, very good.
I think I'm at an 8.5. Like I really love this series. I think they're doing such a good job. I do think sometimes I wish the plotting were a little bit better and like some of the writing like felt a little bit harder sometimes, but like I think that they're doing great with what they're doing. I really appreciate this show, and I can't wait to watch more. I was having a hard time watching the show, like I said. And then once I watched like 3 episodes in a row last night, I was like, yeah, I'm fully on board. I stayed up till midnight. I was excited. And then on rewatch, I think it's even better. So I think this is a show that has really good rewatch value.
Yeah.
And it works well where it's not like the scenes aren't too long with nothing said. There's lots of dialogue. There's lots of bits of pieces to pick up. And I did like that.
Yeah.
Laura?
I think that I'm an easy grader. So I'm also, Sarah, I'm going to meet you at a 9 because I think that this was overall just a really great season. I saw a lot of improvements upon the first season, things that they noticed and picked up on and made better. And I think that the casting really, really helps the show to excel. And they've just done excellent work with casting the show. And I thought it was a romp overall. It was great.
Yeah.
All
And
right.
to be fair, I mean, season 1 had some issues like COVID and an actor
Yes.
leaving halfway through, not halfway
Yes.
through, but yeah, I thought season 2 was a huge improvement over season 1, even though I liked season 1.
And
But
I liked
thought
season 1 a
yeah.
lot.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I
also
thought
like
season 2 was so much better.
I remember season 1, this finale was pretty clunky, and Laura and I watched it together. We were
Yeah.
both like, what did we just watch? And so like
Like
this,
right when they're going through the gate and beyond is just like,
yeah,
what happened? What this is a different show. What did we do?
I will say this finale, besides some weird written choices with just introducing a new actor, it's mostly new actors working with the old ones. Like it feels a little bit clunkier. Where again, you have Rand going, "Who are you?" And she's like, "I'm Elaine Tracand." And I was like, "Why? I didn't need this." Like
That feels exactly how they would say it in the books.
I did read something really cute. And I don't know what article this came from because it was just like a snippet that someone had shared on Twitter. But they were filming the scene with the Heroes of the Horn. And Rafe noticed that Donald Flynn is his last name Flynn or Finn? Have I been mispronouncing it this whole time?
I thought it was Donald Finn.
Okay, so I've been mispronouncing his name this whole time. Okay. But Rafe noticed that he was getting a little emotional, and he said that's because I was in Morocco filming something else on this very spot when I got the call that I had been cast as Matt. And I was like, my heart.
Oh my gosh.
Just got chills, and I think it's just the way you told that story. It
Yeah.
was so good.
That's so good.
Oh, that's so sweet. I do like him as an actor. I think he has like good small acting choices that I really appreciate. So I can't wait to see once he gets to know all that, like once we get to see him with the characters, like what he brings out of them and the different relationship stuff, because it's like you guys said, like the original Matt was more of a gloomy Gus and more of a like sarcastic, caustic person. And he seems to bring the joy of Matt, which will be awesome. So also the heartbreak though, because when Min betrays him, I forgot to talk, we didn't really talk about that, but like when Min betrays him and he was like from the beginning, and then he's just like done and heartbroken, and she's like screaming at him, like trying to get forgiveness, and he's just like, absolutely not. Like it was really well done.
Oh man,
he's got range.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does have range.
Can you tell everyone where to find you guys?
You can find me. I'm one of the co-hosts of Fiction Fans podcast. So you can find us at Fiction Fans Pod. Email us at fictionfanspod@gmail.com. Our website is fictionfanspodcast.com. I also mentioned that I do Tarvalon Talks occasionally. So you can find us, I think the Twitter handle. It's a podcast that's associated with the Tarvalon.net fan site. So I think our Twitter handle is just Tarvalon at Tarvalon. And you can find both podcasts wherever you listen to podcasts.
You can find me at the CM Caplan at let's see, what are all the new Twitter alternatives?
All of the Twitter alternatives.
Yes.
Yeah, basically, BlueSky, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Fuck, I feel like I'm forgetting
all of the social media.
Yeah,
All of them.
those. I have 2 books out. The Sword in the Street was my debut that came out in 2021, and in 2022 I put out The Fall Is All There Is, and that is a Spiff Pro finalist. And do I have anything else I gotta plug? I think that's it. I think that's everything.
And we can definitely recommend that people read The Fall Is All There Is because Hannah and I read it and we talked about it on the podcast. So
I read it as well. I haven't talked about it on any podcasts, but it's great.
But you're
How dare
talking
you?
about it now. We all recommend
I
it.
We
can't
all
believe
talked
that
about
we
it on a
didn't.
podcast now. So yeah, make sure you guys are looking them up and following them on all social platforms. And you can follow us at OWWR Pod on all social platforms, or go to ourpod.com and find us wherever you get your podcast. Thank you both for coming on. We really appreciate
thank
it.
you.
And thank you for talking to us about the first 4 episodes of The Wheel of Time.
It's always a delight to be on your podcast.
I have so much fun on here. It's so great.
Oh, we appreciate it. We definitely, when we were talking about breaking it up in 4 episodes, we were like, well, Connor and Sarah have to come on one. That's the rule. So thank you both. Well, until next time, join us next week. Bye.
Bye.